Wade says he can't die here and says you won't get it. Wade says he'll survive. The man says he's capable and asks his name. He says he's just a simple adventurer. His name is Wade. I actually thought so. Wade says he won't die. The woman tells him that he has become her mate and is now the master of this dungeon, and that he will never be able to leave the house again. The girl says she will save the Simpaja and suggests they escape the house together. Another girl approaches Uidu and asks if he would like to go with her. The woman says he won't get out of here and that he's hers. Wade says he has to choose. He says that he will stop being the master of the dungeon and will get out of the house at any cost. Wade reveals that the dragon is not just a beast, but an ancient being capable of destroying entire cities, and the idea that his task is to stop this monster at any cost. The man is breathing heavily. Despair is before his eyes. Wade is breathing heavily. He says he can't afford the throne here. Wade says he'll take the potion and then takes a sip. He says it's time to start. The woman lies on the ground and asks to be saved. Wade moves on with a shovel. Wade says that if he comes back alive, he will definitely save her, and asks her to be patient for now. An impossible girl lies on the ground. Wade says he'll survive. The story of a hero stuck in a dungeon begins. A few hours ago, a group of people gathered at the entrance to the dungeon. A group of men stand at the entrance to a cave. The woman communicates attention. The man thanks the adventurers for their presence and informs them that they helped him explore the dungeon today. He assumes their goal is to find artifacts, dangerous items imbued with the dungeon's powers, which are extremely rare and possess superior effects. The man on the pedestal says that if a few people are modest, he will share with those who perform well and grant them the right to become my subordinates, which he will honor for them. Wade says that his noble family has been guarding such treasures, worthy of an aristocrat, for many years, and then adds that he will soon die of boredom. The woman calls Wade to come with them. He says that no matter what, he will not find his enemy, no matter how long it takes. Wade says he needs the discovery document and nothing more. The man says it's time to get started and demands to prove he's a scientist. A group of men slowly moves forward. Wade reports that at the time he had no idea. Wade reports that he will have to spend quite a bit of time in this dungeon. He and his comrades enter the cave with torches. He notices and reports the goblin's gaze. The goblin rushes forward, letting out a cry. The man gestures for them to follow him. A man with a torch stands behind Wade, wearing a hood and holding an axe, chopping something on the ground. Wade says they're too slow and they need to go faster. The man with the sword stands and breathes heavily, watching the bodies on the ground. The man says to go forward and go further. Wade reports that something is moving in the cave. The man says it's something big and dangerous. Wade says we need to be careful and prepared for you. He reports that there are several passages in the cave, but they all lead to a dead end. The man with the staff thinks they should continue on, despite the danger, and warns that there may be traps ahead. The guy says that as soon as Wade entered completely, he immediately showed character, and he called Wade an aristocrat. Wade explains that, despite this, he was their client, and they must protect him. The man says he can see he's serious about this and asks his name. Wade explains that he's an adventurer who specializes in dungeons. The man asks if Wade has a specific purpose in the dungeons, to which Wade replies that he's looking for someone. The man says he hopes Wade finds that person. He says he noticed Wade had a shovel and asks if he lost his weapon. Wade says this is his weapon and thinks it works surprisingly well as both a sharp and a blunt weapon. He thinks it's cheap, and if it breaks, it's no big deal. He says this like a veteran adventurer. The man says he's just stingy. Wade says he'll show off his golden throwing skills. The man next to him laughs. Wade suddenly notices something. The man yells, "Stop." Wade notices the crystal and says, "That's it." He believes these are explosive rocks that are spreading throughout the world and warns against starting to retreat, as traps and monsters become more dangerous from the middle level onward, and he can't create a threat. The man asks what they are and explains that they are dangerous minerals that explode at high temperatures. The man says Wade wants to keep everything he found for himself and is outraged by how he laughs. The man says he decided to get the documents and receive a reward for his work. The guy says he has a scroll of return just in case, enough for everyone, and asks if there are any objections. Wade says there's nothing he can do. Suddenly, they see the chest glowing. The man says it is a document and says it is a treasure. The guy laughs and runs forward, and Wade says that it is dangerous and orders him to stop. The scene shows a step in shoes on a surface. The man reports that this is a circle of calls that uses spiritual benefits in a parallel world, and he thinks that a large number of people are required to activate it. Wade says he knew it was a trap and found it annoying at the same time. He says it's teleportation magic. The man reports that these are not just eyes, but eyes that have seen death. Wade reveals that the dragon is an ancient being capable of destroying entire cities, and the idea that its emergence threatens disaster for the entire world. A young man reports a dragon's problems. He answered the question. The man is frightened and screams when the dragon attacks him. The man breathes heavily, sitting on the ground. The dragon fires a solar energy beam from its mouth. Wade reports that things are bad. Then there's a huge explosion. Wade flies away. The man is screaming and Wade is saying what's going on. A fire appeared. Then it broke away from the little paws, and a strong impact occurs with fragments flying off. All people were left unconscious and covered in blood after the explosion. Wade reveals that he cannot be president because he has a purpose he must live for. He says he will take revenge and has promised it. He then goes on to say that the president cannot be here. Wade breathes heavily and says he's tired. He leans on the shovel and walks slowly across the ground. Then he grips the handle of the shovel. He says he will survive. Wade says ooh as he jumps back sharply. He makes a whistling sound as he moves. He says that we can't stop and we need to move on. Wade screams, making hoarse sounds. A powerful explosion or energy surge has been detected, erecting a wall. He says it hurts. Wade reports that it is the explosion of the stones themselves. He says we should try. The horned shadow looks back. Wade says he'll lend him the robe. A strong blow occurs and leads. Wade says that's how he seals the bag. Wade stands on the ground and looks at the dragon. Wade says he's here, you filthy lizard. He says, what is going to happen now? Wade will be torn to pieces by the monster. There is a spectacular explosion and flash. Wade laughs. Wade reports that there are no scratches on the dragon. He strikes. A dragon appears in the background. Wade says the head and right arm are still intact and moving. He asks where the weapon is. A man lies on the ground with a small shadow in the form of claws hanging over him. Wade reports that he can't think that happened. The monster says that he likes the persistence of his interlocutor. It says that Wade will become his mate and inherit the power of the dungeon master. He says he can't think that this happened and asks what it means. Wade tries his best in the article. The guy says what happened to him and what this phenomenon is. The girl tells Wade that he is her, and she didn't let him go. Wade says he doesn't understand what's going on while lying in bed. He says there's no wound. The man says, where is that damn lizard? Nia says it's rude, and that's how I imagine it. Wade recovers his confusion. Nia asks if she's charmed him and says he can watch as much as he wants. The woman says that she liked him for his amazing tenacity and the fire in his eyes, which did not go out even after he was cut into pieces and carried away, that it would be a shame if he died. A woman reports that the power of the dungeon healed the men's wounds. The girl says that she transferred her power to Wade and he was restored. The woman speaks to the man and informs him that she has decided that he will be her male. The woman announces that all the treasures she collected now belong to Wade and tells him to rejoice. Open treasure chests are shown. Mouse Woman, that the sword can be extended as much as desired. The shield reflects magic. The bracelet increases the owner's strength. Nia Hand, that is a document showing what he wants and is well suited for finding tasty prey. He says that he will now activate the Discoveries document. The girl asks where the man is going. Wade says he needs to go to the surface and find someone with this. The woman says he can't leave the dungeon. Wade asks why. Nia says he's alive now because his soul is sealed in the dungeon's core, and he's become the dungeon master, warning him that if he breaks through to the surface, he'll die. She says that if he wants to leave, he needs an heir. Wade says he can't stay here because he has an illegal business. The girl tells him he'll have to live with her. Wade is outraged and doesn't believe what she's saying. The woman remains silent. Wade notices something and says that this is the exit. Wade says it's finally. He says that he doesn't understand that he's starting to bleed everywhere. Nia says he's just recovered, and the same thing happened again, and his mother, who came to pick him up, asks him to be grateful. Nia says that since she's fallen in love, there's nothing she can do. When Wade was on the brink of death after riding the dragon, he narrowly escaped death by becoming a dungeon master. What he managed to find, he found what he'd been looking for so long, and thus managed to take another step towards the place, or so it only seemed. He says that if he can't use this exit, he will dig one for himself, and he suggests this option. Wade says this and then falls to the ground with a powerful blow. He says he never succeeded, making a sound of pain. He will resume his suffering. Nia explains that these are the dungeon master's restrictions. She says Wade is wasting his time if he goes beyond the dungeon's boundaries, as his body will be destroyed. The man screams, "Why?" Nia says not to worry and just go back. Her body will immediately recover thanks to the magical power. She says she's probably calmed down now. He thinks, damn it, and just when he finally got the discovery document, no one wants to take on the responsibility of becoming the new dungeon master. Wade says he feels uneasy about deceiving anyone either. The woman asks why he is so keen on choosing a ministry and says that he can have a great time here too. Wade says he needs a place, he needs to find someone no matter what, and he needs to get out of here. He says that it would be better to explore this dungeon for now. The man says her name is Nia, and it's true. The girl laughs. The girl confirms that her name is Nia, and that she is a proud red dragon. Wade replies that he is a simple adventurer, to which Nia repeats the question about a simple adventurer. He and the girl react with surprise to what's happening. He announces that they're goblins and shouts, Gaia. Then, a hooded Wade attacks the goblin, knocking it out of the building. Two goblins throw spears and scream. Wade notices that the exploding object is the color of explosive gunpowder. Then an explosion occurs, and Wade screams in pain. The woman reports that he was careful. The man says he hopes the goblins are ready. Wade suddenly raises his shovel, radiates power, and delivers a powerful blow. The goblin, terrified, tries to roll over, but is injured by the blow. The goblin makes a noise and suddenly grabs the plow. He says he has enough problems without them. He stands by the fire, leaning on the shovel, and watches the goblin. The image shows Wade's silhouette delivering a powerful punch to a wall, causing destruction and debris to fly out. The goblin says yes. The girl reports that one of them escaped and is returning to the house. As for taking care of him, the man screams. Wade thinks there's no need to pursue these consequences, they were simply defending themselves. The girl tells the man he's completely unaware and asks us. The woman reports that their target is the goblin leader, the boss goblin, and that he's quite clever. She explains that the goblins have a custom of electing a leader of the strongest people who lead the culture through duels. The woman says that with luck, a new successor can be appointed. Wade reacts to the exclamation. The man thinks this is different and suggests they move faster. The woman says he's so inspired. The man and woman run forward. He asks if this was decided upon beforehand and clarifies whether there is a corresponding equivalent. The girl of love asks why he didn't use this technique during their victory. He reports that he used it completely until his body literally began to burst from the tension. Wade says it's a monstrous creature. The girl thinks he's the only one who survived and asks for forgiveness. The text says that he appreciates the interlocutor's tenacity, as well as the idea that human life is just a fragile instrument, a vulnerable and delicate matter capable of overcoming a moment. He says that he was attracted to her courage, her lack of fear of pain, and her determination, which surpasses even the instinct of self-preservation. Wade says he's there. The man asks what he means. He says he can't afford to fall, and thinks that if he does, he will die. The man falls down the slope. A woman with wings and horns lands in front of a cloaked man, who reacts. Several goblins stand in the distance. The man says that this place is a goblin nest, and the girl thinks that they have made a good catch. The guy looks forward sharply. The woman says the vile goblins must know this place. She reports that the goblins injured her mail, and she left no trace of them. The scene depicts a dragon flying toward an explosion or a bright bag of light. The sounds are conveyed through the captions. Wade says dragons are certainly amazing, but he's not ready to just stand there. Then he yells, "Stop." The orc reports that these are the ones who attacked his brothers and questions if he was the goblin boss, saying that he was just expected. The woman says they are now corpses. The man says he doesn't want them. The woman says she won't read, and now it's the man's turn. The man says she's one of her dungeon masters and that if she dares, the dragon, who can't be defeated, will be her downfall. Wade says he's eager to see if the popular girl is brave. The girl says she'll keep her big guns on the side and expects Wade to put on a performance worthy of becoming her boyfriend, followed by questions about when she can become his lover. Viga says his name is Viga. He says it's nice to meet you. Wade unleashes a series of punches on his helmeted opponent, who tries to deflect them. Wade continues to attack, drawing a powerful punch that sends his opponent retreating. He says that he is very strong, and this goblin is well versed in the development side. He quickly runs forward. The goblin reports that in addition to the goblin boss's superpowers, his military weapons are at their limits. The guy says that he is not easy to defeat. Wade asks what he should do. The woman thinks he'll die if he goes to the surface and advises him to simply return. His body will immediately be restored thanks to the dungeon's magical power. Wade says he understands. He reports an increase in energetic strengthening without limitation. His thought is that his body is beginning to crumble, but with the help of the dungeon's power, it will be permanently preserved. The man strikes Wade. Wade reports an overpowered attack and an ultra attack. The orc lets out a pained groan and falls, covering his face. He says that this is the end, then raises the radiation above his head and throws it to the ground, after which the enemy screams in pain. Wade states that he and the demon have broken their agreement, and that he will now serve the demon. The demon believes that Wade must now follow its orders and has no right to refuse. The woman says that their rescue turned out to be the key and praises Wade for his work. He says that they continue in this spirit and will conquer the entire dungeon, and then says that he understands what she wanted. Wade says he won't forgive them and asks if they like it. The man says the goblins survived by obeying significantly and explains that this is the goblin code to speak of death and accept one's fate. The goblin says there's no need to worry, that's just how goblins are. He says it's clear then too. Wade asks Viga to become the dungeon master, but Viga states that he cannot do so. Respectfully, they are undoubtedly master and servant, and the dungeon belongs to Lord Wade. He asks Viga to get out of here, and Viga says that they should not agree under any conditions. Wade says he needs to step away and apologizes. The man runs away down the tunnel. He says he needs to find another master. Then he reacts sharply to the girl, who says the way he fought was great and that she even got turned on. He yells at her not to get so turned on. The girl exclaims in amazement that Nia says that Wade must be exhausted and she will share her magical power to calm him down. He says to wait. He shouts for them to wait. It's reported that in the permanent city outside the dungeon, 5 days have passed since Wade disappeared into the dungeon. The girl says he's so difficult and decides to go visit him. In the goblin journals, in the heart of the dungeon, the chieftain announces that they will hold a feast in honor of the new chieftain and orders food and drink to be prepared. He asks if they know how to cook and offers to help. He begins chopping ingredients and a goblin brings a bowl of food. To allow for a variety of dishes, place a large roast chicken in the center of the plate. Small creatures dance around a cauldron of food, a man carries a tray of dishes, a girl with wings sits at a table, 2 creatures think from bowls. The girl says it's very tasty. The girl tells him they have a great cook, Wade, but he thinks he's not so good and only knows the bare minimum. Wade says it's also very tasty and asks what kind of meat it is. The woman says it's a stone centipede. He says it's rubbish. The woman says he might look cute, like a child, and that's touching. The woman exclaims that it's a waste. The woman says they'll continue discussing the dungeon once they've finished eating, and whether Wade will continue searching for a successor. Wade says he can't get married unless he relinquishes his position as dungeon master. He says he wants to know if anyone knows a monster who could take his place. The woman screams that it's unfair and he asks what happened. The woman says she can grant a wish, but she doesn't want to part with Wade and suggests he die with her forever. Wade asks why she didn't just go to the surface with him then. He says this bracelet is a custom, a proposal of a relationship with the intention of marriage and being together forever. A woman in a wedding dress rejoices, holding Wade in her arms. A girl in a costume with wings screams in shock that this is exactly it. The girl says she knows a skeleton archer if a candidate is needed. Wade recovers from his confusion. The girl makes a delighted sound. The woman thought, perhaps even a former ghost adventurer, seems capable and intelligent. He reports that this is a suitable successor and offers to visit him. Wade asks if this is the place. The flying creature informs him that this is the area where the skeletons are swarming. The girl says she's so happy and wants to marry Wade. He yells something. The man says there's no need to tease him and offers to exchange eternal vows. Wade screams. The girl screams and breathes heavily. The girl screams and breathes heavily. Wade screams master. The girl screams no and runs away from the slime. He informs them that stopping them for a while and the security team is a high priority. He takes the stone and says that this should be accepted. The girl screams in fear, covers her head, then flinches from the explosion and exclaims. Wade says hi and asks how things are. The man exclaims, Master Wade. Wade delivers a punch that doesn't harm the slime. The man thinks a regular graphic attack doesn't work on slimes. He says that everything is correct, so he will direct the magical power into the stone, and Wade yells as he strikes and throws a rock. The winged girl and the little girl run away, the little girl screaming. The woman says she'll see how it all ends and help a little. On the left page, 3 characters react to the sudden outbreak of fire. The scene depicts a bubble emitting water onto the surface, accompanied by bubbling sounds. Wade reports that the fuel is out and they're going to get it. The girl replies that it's accepted. The girl strikes and parries the attack. He says she did a great job and the girl thanks him. Wade says it's his turn, and a power that uses the Dungeon Master's regenerative power. It reports overload. It makes a sharp downward movement. Wade throws a punch from above. Wade says it's too easy. The guy with the ears shouts, Master, and says it was amazing. The girl in the center says she's never seen anything like it and asks what the technique is. The girl on the left asks to be taught. The woman with wings says that they need to calm down and talk calmly first. The man in the mask makes snorting sounds. Wade reacts with surprise. The man stands in front of a large stream of fire. A woman screams that they've been caught, and a man says there were more of them. The woman groans. Below, arrows fly toward the installation. Wade explains what happened. The man notices someone appearing in the cave and reacts, an explosion or a strong impact, accompanied by a loud sound. He says it's the skeleton itself. The man says he's asking for something, and the girl says it might be a reward for saving them. The guy points out that gold coins are coming in, and Wade says that it's not out of good intentions. The man raises his fists. He says, "Thank you." The guy yells for them to wait and says he has a favor to ask. The man leaves without looking back. Wade asks if the other man is the dungeon master and says he came here to find a successor, wanting him to be it. The man says it seems the other man is rejecting him and asks if he's ignoring him. The girl tells him to forget about it and says she's very glad the master is okay. The man, who was very worried because they didn't return from the dungeon, Wade says she came looking for him and got lost. The girl says she's so ashamed. He says it's impossible. The girl suggests leaving the house right now. The girl asks, "What?" The man screamed and expressed great surprise. The woman claims to be a sexy dragon lady. Wade reveals she's become a dungeon master. The woman says that it can't be a mistake and that it's too much. The man says he's afraid it's true, and that's why he can't come to the surface, and Wade says exactly that. The girl says, The girl says that's good and says that she will help find a successor. Wade says this will be the foundation, and that he knows. The girl explains that when she first started out, it was Wade who supported her when things weren't working out. She thought she'd been kicked out of the guild she belonged to a few years ago, despite her diligent training. He says the girl is getting too close and is very fast and agile, but in this state she won't be able to do anything. The girl asks who he is. He thinks he wants to give advice to a newbie who is taking unnecessary risks, so this interrupts the conversation. He says the girl isn't using her talent to its full potential and offers. Wade says fewer people should feel sorry for their helplessness. Then he suggests they stop frowning and have a cup. The girl agrees and accepts the offer. They clink glasses. The girl thanks Wade for his repeated help and announces that now it's her turn to pay him back, calling him to action. The woman says it's too close. It's a lone man who's someone's puppy. He says it belongs to him and he won't give it to anyone. The scene depicts an explosion with fire and smoke, accompanied by sound effects. The girl asks Master Wade to stop, and Wade says he doesn't know how to stand with her, and asks if she's kidding him. He says, "Give me the same." Meanwhile, in the capital, a woman reports that she heard their target is in the depths of a dungeon, and asks if that's possible. The woman says it's Lord Dragonslayer. Wade says, of course. He says he kills a dragon and does it flawlessly. The text speaks of the power of dragonslayers. Wade says he can't move. The girl says she is at the border. Wade says his tummy is growling like crazy. The woman says she won't fight hunger and won't forgive them, even if they smile sweetly. The man accuses Nee of eating all the supplies and notes that even the goblins are suffering. The woman thought they only had caterpillars left, which are not at all tasty, the man. Wade says that if there's a long search, then you can't go out for supplies every time, and in any case, you need to make the best decision. I wonder how goblins handle food in this case, given their deep sense of purpose. The girl with wings says she doesn't think they're addressing this issue. He reports in a letter to the magic shop in the city that security confirmation is understood. He added to grab some food. The girl says she brought her. Wade says she's grown so much and also notices that she seems to have shrunk and jokes that he'll curse her for it. The girl greets Wade and asks how he is. Wade wonders who she even is. The girl, what are they? Dolta says it's nice to meet you and introduces herself as a magician. The man inquiring is a linear expert. Dolta thinks she shouldn't be called a child as it's taboo. The man is indignant that he couldn't have known this sooner. Wade reports that Sunny told him what happened here and asked the person from the underground if it was true, and now they're faced with their work. Wade says he's concerned about the person's frivolity, even though the situation is quite serious, and he says the food shortage is easy to solve. He says they can afford the repairs. He explains that he wants to grow vegetables here, so he's bringing seeds that have been modified for magical cultivation. The man asks what he plans to grow. Wade explains that the level of magic in a dungeon depends largely on its owner, and if it's insufficient, it will be difficult to raise creatures that can be used as food. He explains that the previous owner was a dragon, so a difference in magic level is inevitable. The woman says that in this dungeon, the guy says they don't have enough magic and supplies, and if there's a way to increase them, she says she can embarrass herself with Wade by sparring. He and the girl express surprise. The woman thinks the art of love lies in circulating and amplifying each other's magic through their interactions. Wade says he doesn't understand what this news is. The girl with wings sits silently nearby. He says the master is doing this with the dragon and points out that it's not something to imagine. Sunny says he's not going to do that. He suggests Sunny get involved. The girl asks if there's another way to increase their magical power. Wade says they just need to kill adventurers. The woman thinks that when creatures die in the dungeon, their magical power returns, and to make it more effective, she can bring in adventurers from outside and set up death traps everywhere. Wade says they definitely won't do that. The girl says she knew he said that and then thought they had no choice but to engage in inappropriate activities together. Wade yells, "Hey at her." The woman reports that there are still alternative methods and says that she has taken care of everything. Wade thought these flowers were tapping into the magic, and planting large numbers would increase the effect. He explained that all that remained was to harness the flow of earthly energy, move there, then here, and finally allow the magic to flow into the dungeon. The woman says that these problems with magic have been resolved. The girl says that the magic is being replenished. His thoughts, unfortunately, cannot feel the difference in magical power like they do, and ask if that is right. Wade says, "Let's plant some more seeds." The man asks if they even need to plow the soil. Wade thinks there's no need to worry, as the seeds are specially designed to grow anywhere and everywhere in the shortest possible time. The girl says to look here. Wade says it's lucky and everything happens in the blink of an eye. The girl says it's wonderful because they will always have a supply of fresh vegetables on hand for snacks. He says they will gather everything here. A source reports that the springs began to grow. The man thought it was because he touched the ground. A guy fights off an attack from a large pumpkin-headed creature that throws balls of wool at him. Wade says he can't think about it and says it's impossible. The girl thinks it's true and says they saw it with their own eyes. He reports that they have overdone it with nutrients. The man reports that they seem to have a monster vegetable and that they must have been called too much magic. The man wonders what's going on. The voices say that he is absorbing magic from the depths of the earth and it is much stronger. And they also say that this is a very curious phenomenon, but there is no need to rejoice so much. Wave reports that a single blast of dragon breath should solve the problem and quickly offers to eliminate the enemy. The girl thinks they simply need to restore fire energy, but she can't do it with such precision and laments that they're even creating delicious vegetables. He says that then they will have to defeat him in another way. The girl remains silent. The girl reports that she brought documents. Wade said it was excellent work. The woman thought that this was the dungeon's treasure. He says that if he improves his reflexes, strengthens his defenses, and increases his endurance now, he needs to do it. He says that when the enemy comes at Sunny, he will aim for his legs, and Sunny should raise his shield and take the laser beams directly. The girl says that she loves vegetables and eats them every day, and greens are the coolest and most delicious. The guy says it's not a pumpkin, it's a monster. The man thinks it's a creature that feeds on fear. The pumpkin-headed guy screams. Then Wade emits a solar energy beam that leads to the target. The girl reports that she's unleashed magic. The woman says that with the supply of magical energy from the ley lines, it's increased, and now it's Wade's turn to shine. He says he understands and asks her to leave it to him. Wade makes a hump sound and throws a punch, causing a large pumpkin world to fly towards the woman. The woman notices the surrounding environment approaching. The woman announces that the final blow will be on her, and then screams, yes, a state blow is delivered to the pumpkin, which begins to crumble and act partially. A man says they need to harvest quickly, otherwise others will take it. He thinks that if they don't succeed, the consequences will work against them. He says that if they work for them, they can get some food and a roof over their heads. Someone says it's better to work for them than for the president to starve. The girl says she is so happy. The woman says the dungeon vegetables are simply incredible and pair perfectly with the alcoholic, and Wade says he wishes he behaved himself. The girl on the right asks if the vegetable monsters seem to have calmed down, and Wade thinks he's done everything right. He asked the girl if she had thought about becoming a dungeon master. The girl said that it was a lucrative offer, but not for her. The girl says that she needs to manage the store and that she is waiting for her customers. Wade says he understands. The girl says she'll help, as a friend, and your small job will pay for her document. The woman asks if she's bringing him. The man speaks to Wade, addressing him, and he responds by asking what happened. The girl says she wants to try some tricks in the bedroom with her interlocutor and asks if he wants to try. The woman says Wade is really drunk and exclaims, "Oh my God." Wade reports this. He makes a sound like, "Err." The girl abruptly throws the bottle away. The girl starts drinking from the bottle and the man looks at her. The man says he doesn't understand what's happening. Wade says it's yours. The girl says don't peek. The woman asks what. The sound of wind can be heard against the backdrop of the destroyed landscape. He says that he is very bored and that this is all that is on the elevated level. Wade says he prefers Dungeons and Dragons. The man reports that they have everything they need to carry weapons. The man announces that in 3 days they will be going on a dragon hunt and invites them to join those seeking wealth and glory. The girl sits at the table and drinks from a cup. The man reports that the water in the cave is flowing fast and dangerously and warns that care must be taken not to carry it away for a long time. 2 goblins are playing in the water. Wade says he didn't know such a place existed here. The girl says there's a passage underwater and it's connected to the world's communications. He thought that if she were brought to the surface, she would die immediately. Wade says this is where the real trouble comes in. He speaks of great danger. Wade asks Sunny what happened, and Sunny starts telling him that when she was in the guild, the girl reports that the Dragon Slayer is gathering adventurers, and they are preparing to attack this dungeon. The woman says the nickname Dragon Slayer is bold. Wade says he knows the name Brad the Dragon Slayer. The man reveals that his favorite sword is a relic created to fight dragons, and that he is a veteran hero who wields the magic of dragons that have defeated them in the past. The girl says that he seems very important and is wondering if it is possible to hide from him. Wade replies that no, and the thought that in this case sitting out will not happen because the Dragon Slayer is eager to hunt. He says no. The woman says he came for Wade. Wade says he never. He makes a clicking sound. The girl remains silent. Wade says that it is a matter of survival. He will hide by any means necessary because he has no other choice, and in order to protect his dungeon, he is ready to repel the actions of all adventurers. He says that's why. The guy asks for help. The crowd says that there will be protection of your dungeon. Wade says he can't afford to lose. A woman changes time. A man with a spear is looking for muscle to dig in this area. Goblins are busy mining and climbing the ladder out of the cave. Wade announces that digging here could yield something valuable and outlines his plan of action. The girl listens attentively. He strikes the woman with his wings and tail. These attacks are carried out in quick succession. Wade says he can't afford to lose because then it will all be over. He sits at the table, leaning on his hands and looking out the window. The girl in the doorway says she doesn't understand what kind of face it is. The woman told Nia to tell him what was on his mind, and that together they could figure it out. Wade listens. He says that the interlocutor knows. Wade says he's not sure he can beat him, and insists he's just an ordinary adventurer with no special talents. He says that even with the power of the dungeon, he should not be compared to a hero who has 100 battles behind him. Wade says it's kind of weird, the past, that he inspired everyone, and maybe he disappoints everyone. He says that this disease is typical for people, no matter what their condition. The woman says, don't say that. The woman says Wade has already proven his strength and shouldn't underestimate himself. Wade asks if this is true, and the woman replies that of course it is. The woman says that if he doubts, he can always rely on her, and she believes in him. Wade says he can't think this is happening. A woman asks Wade if he feels better now. Wade says everything is fine now, and thanks her. The woman smiles. He reports that the others were also worried about him and thought something was wrong with him. The man screams for them to stop pushing him. Wade says he can't believe this happened and thinks they shouldn't have lost. A woman with wings stands next to Wade. A pile of fallen enemies lies on the floor to the left. He says he's dizzy and feels unwell. He then says he can't continue. Wade asks what they did. The girl's heart is in her mouth. She was walking and then slipping, and the others say it's not her fault and that she's eavesdropping. The orcs shout. The girl and the orc point at each other. The woman laughs. Wade says he can't think she gave up so easily. He says he's very lucky with them and then remains silent. The caption says that 3 days have passed. Wade warns to be careful and says that these guys are tough. The upper right corner depicts an attack directed at the creature. He reports a ranged attack and a barrage of fire. At the bottom right, a foot appears stepping on a magic circle. At the bottom left, a fiery explosion is depicted with a scream. At the bottom right, he reacts to what's happening. The man shouts what he is doing. The knight tells them to get up and that there is no time to rest. Wade says that he is spending his money and tells them to go forward. He tells them that they need to move faster and that the dragon that humiliated him must die. The man reports that wounded people may appear and they are slowing them down. He thinks these creatures are constantly attacking and retreating as if trying to confuse and trap them to drive them away. The man says the cowardly dragon is avoiding him. Wade informs me that from now on, only I, who am not afraid to go further, should become a contender for him. He says not to do whatever you want and that the squad belongs to him. The man in the helmet reacts confidently and begins to speak. Wade reports that the passage has collapsed, stating that you've rescued the accused, promising to help lift him out. The man appears surprised and alarmed. Wade thought they'd never reach the end of this path, as the situation is much worse than last time. The man shouts, "What the hell is going on?" repeating the question twice. Wade reports that everything is going well and Dolta's trap is working. This is a reminder that they set the traps to neutralize the harmful effects, not kill them, and the more fighters stop fighting to injure their comrades, the more their numbers dwindle. He says that if they continue to act in the same spirit, they'll be able to defeat the enemy and engage in battle. The woman wants to know how to succeed as a dragon hunter. Wade explains that their main problem is Brad. He's incredibly strong, and his title of Dragon Slayer is no joke. The man says he is a real monster. Our traps can't stop him. He easily defeats goblins, and he is afraid that he will have to fight him on his own. The girl asks if he's sure. Wade says he's going to crush this Brad and says it's good. He says that with the power of the dungeon, he is practically immortal, and he confirms this word, of course. Wade says that if he needs to, he'll blow himself up and take the enemy with him using exploding rocks. The girl says that's a terrible ending. He says they're dealing with a dragon slayer, so the girl will only wake them up. The girl says she's going with Wade, and he says no. The woman says she needs Wade to do something else. The woman speaks questioningly. The man remains silent. The man tells them they should continue on because it's dangerous here. He thinks the forest is full of traps and enemies, and they should be careful. The man explains that a difficult path lies ahead, but they can't turn back. 3 men walk through the forest, moving carefully through the bushes. The man reports that this place used to be different and was irritating. Wade says that if he can't get out, he'll die here, and that he doesn't want to die. He thinks he can't afford Edident because he has a family. He says that there is nothing in this world that could be called good or evil, and that everything depends on one's point of view. He says that even if someone considers themselves a hero, to another they may be a villain. He explains that it is important to be aware of this difference so as not to get lost in one's beliefs. Wade lands a powerful punch on his opponent. The guy screams, then throws a punch, after which he says it's a curse. Wade claims to be the dungeon master. A man with an eye patch asks who he is. The text announces that a fierce battle is about to begin. The man with the eye patch says he dared to attack him so suddenly, but the man with the shovel looks confident. The man with the eye patch approaches the fight. Wade reports that with his level of skill, he won't be caught off guard. The man thought he was imagining it, but it didn't work. He says that when they clashed, he realized there was a huge difference between them, and that this was a confrontation between an incredibly powerful being. Wade says they just have to do it. He announces that it is your turn. The sounds of falling and destruction are audible. The boy shouts something in response to what happened. The knight turns sharply and makes a thumping sound. The knight breathes heavily. The man says they're underwear. The knight, holding a hammer, curses and asks what it is. Several figures run into the forest. Wade tells him to get out of the way while attacking the pumpkin-headed thing. He says his inner goal is to hunt dragons. Wade says he kills evil dragons and uses their power to hunt other dragons. He then orders the man to leave, declaring that the man is nothing to him. The man confirmed that he thought so. Wade reports that after this, he is unable to convey the message to the man. The scene depicts a dynamic fight scene where he and another fighter simultaneously strike, accompanied by the famous collision and explosion effects. Wade says enough is enough. He reports that the opponent's speed and strength are decent, but their technique is mediocre at best. The man says the boy lacks experience, then he yells at the boy. Wade says the other guy is a dungeon master and has climbed too high. He says, "Damn it." The man says that there's nothing special about this dragon whose government he is. Wade says that dragons are creatures that use their power as they please, and asks how many people have been killed at their whim, adding that as an adventurer, the interviewer should understand this. He says he still remembers that horror, but his life was saved then, and now he can no longer see her as a monster. Then he makes a sound of pain. The right panel shows a sharp impact sound. The left panel recorded an explosion. The man asks why he's taking such a risk. Wade says it will be her virus, because ultimately, it's his duty. The man reports that in this case, Wade says, "You can die for life." He says he's doing it right now. Wade says, "Damn it," and reports that the enemy has broken through his magical defenses. A man in a hooded cloak approaches the fight, holding a weapon. He says he was right to hire him as support, but also notes that it's daylight robbery, 1 gold piece per shot. The man grips the hilt of his sword. Wade was very surprised by the return. He says it's his sword and the client is on the bastard. Wade says that's what he assumed, and reveals that the same applies to dragon slaying. He says what it means. The man with the eye patch is surprised. He strikes the table with his sword. Wade says he's super effective against anyone with dragon powers. The man says it's that guy. He reports that his own power is being used against him. then makes sounds of pain. The man with the eye patch screams that he doesn't believe what's happening and stirs up outrage by shouting a battle cry. Wade says he's a dragon slayer and can't be defeated. Then Wade yells, "That's great," and motions for him to do it now. He says it's teleportation magic. He and the other man use teleportation magic, create a magic circle, and disappear from the scene. The man screams in shock. Wade yells that he's yours. A woman announces a meeting with Niu. A man stabs a man. A woman delivers a powerful punch to a man's face. A man falls down. A man stands, radiating power. Wade falls into the mine. Wade reports that he fell. He says it's so and wonderful. The image shows an explosion or destruction accompanied by debris, shrapnel, and dust. There are no visible characters or speech bubbles. Wade says this is an observation, and not just once, but by accident. The guy says that this time he's asking for the royal knight and warns him to wait. Then the guy punches him. The girl asks where the man is going. The man makes a tense sound. The woman says hooray and announces that they have won. Wade stands by a column, holding a mug. To his right, several creatures are enjoying themselves around a fire. They're cheering and waving their arms. One of the creatures, wearing a pumpkin on his head, is distributing food, which others can take and cook. The girl says he's still so gloomy even though they're so small, and that she sees that face again. He says he's worried about what will happen next. Wade reports that this dragon slayer is the kingdom's hero who defeated him in the dungeon and may attract attention. The girl tells him not to worry and that as long as he's the dungeon master, they can handle anything. He asks how that's possible, and the girl replies that it doesn't matter. He says it's. The woman says that he sacrificed his life to protect her, so she promises to love him forever. The woman tells Wade that she proposes to be together forever. Wade says it's not fair, and he wants to come too. The girl says it's just the two of them and asks what else to do. The girl tells Wade, "Master." Wade says forever. The man screams, What? He says he's had enough of the immortal nonsense in the dungeon and announces that he's returning to the surface. The woman says that if anything gets in her way, the hero will be a kingdom or even a god, and she will crush them all. The girl smiles and says the same. Wade says, "Damn it, he's leaving." The woman says she never thought it would be possible to defeat a dragon slayer. The woman exhales. The woman reports that a time of chaos has come. It is reported that several days have passed since the change with Dragon Slayer. The girl screams "Ha!" and strikes with her sword. The man raises his club and swings it, provoking a dangerous counterattack. The man delivers a powerful blow to the girl with the club. Wade says you're trusting too much and advises you to get some rest. The man says everyone's talking about Wade, but they're watching closely as he's constantly being attacked and surrounded. He reports that he couldn't defeat Brad, and one wrong move could have resulted in the complete loss of everything. He believes there's no time to rest and that he needs to get stronger. Wade says he has no right to lose again now, no matter what. A woman makes a sound of surprise. The woman says she wants to test her current capabilities and asks to influence her strength. The woman asks if Wade is serious, to which he replies that yes, he is asking. The woman says she's not thrilled with the idea, but it can't be helped. He applies super force and delivers a fire strike. Wade says, "Damn," and suddenly changes his demeanor. Then he swings his sword. The guy shouts, "Master." Wade screams that it didn't work. The man and girl look at him. He says his heart almost broke, and the woman asks what he wanted to do. Wade thought it was his longtime partner Sylvia's technique. He explained that it involves empowering magical weapons that pass through the body, and if properly adjusted, it can even cut fire. The girl asks who this woman is. He says that she was younger than him, but taught him how to strengthen his body. Wade says she was very energetic, and it was hard to keep up with her, but he tried to keep up. The woman shows off a pendant with a star-shaped design inside a triangle, then smiles and adjusts the pendant on her neck. The girl announces that she'll now show you how to express yourself. She jumps into the water to attack the sea creature. The woman says so. Wade says that Sylvia is dangerous, and it's too dangerous, and Sylvia says that she's perfectly fine. He says that these are already consequences, and that he could have spoken more carefully. The girl says that they still won. The woman says that Wade is worried about everything, and Wade thinks that in the dungeon, any mistake can cost lives, and therefore it is necessary to be careful in the future. The woman tells Wade that she moves forward because he can rely on her. "Wade," says Sylvia. He says that after such words he will no longer warn. The girl says that he has figured her out. Wade says she was incredibly agile, and her strength was beyond belief. He explains that the technique was different from using solar magic to create objects and, ideally, resulted in a cosmic release of accumulated magic, which she skillfully manipulated to direct her attacks. He says she explained it very roughly, so he didn't fully understand the details, but the gist was clear. The girl says they need to pull themselves together, suggests doing so, and confirms it. Wade says that if he can go to her technical school, he will become much stronger. He says he'll continue training and asks for more help. The man and woman report that they have no problem helping him. The woman says that perhaps safer training methods should be used, but the man agrees. The girl asks how the interlocutor is doing with the golem and says that she came to see how he is doing here. Wade reports seeing the man continue to train. The woman suggests that if he wants, they can work out together, and he says that would be very helpful and asks if they could have a drink. Wade says the training golem is a great thing and convenient with which he can regulate his strength. The woman says that she is glad that he likes it. The woman reports that she used information about various tactical techniques used in combat from the archives of knightly orders in various countries, as well as the idea that the body's strength is regulated by the amount of magic it absorbs from the environment. The woman asks if the girl built it to its maximum power level, and the girl confirms that she did so at Wade's request. She then shows Wade delivering a powerful punch. The woman reports that he has recently become too carried away and obsessed with trying to get to know his girlfriend's technology. The woman says she doesn't know if she should say it, but she will anyway. The woman reports that his former partner was killed in the dungeon. The group was suddenly attacked while exploring, and everyone was killed. Wade, miraculously surviving, saw the killer. Tell a man that his eyes are like spirals and that this is an internal thread that they have. The woman reports that Wade is obsessed with a desire for space. The woman believes this is why he strives to escape the dungeon, having gained greater power, and understands that this place belongs to the enemy. She explains that he nevertheless risked his life to protect her. The woman says she never thought it would be written with a dragon slayer, and that she too was very surprised. The man strikes the woman with a shovel with a large sword. The woman says he's a softy at heart and she can't leave him because he's too sweet, and also says it seems his loyalty to his comrades hasn't changed. Wade says everything is fine. He gets hit hard, throwing it against the wall, which collapses from the force of the blow. Wade reports that everything is fine. The man asks if the master is okay and says that they still think they need to stop. He says that he wants to finish what he started and must overcome the limits of his capabilities as quickly as possible. Wade slams his shovel into the ground and then runs toward the stone creature. The stone creature slams the ground hard, causing a massive explosion, sending Wade to his knees next to the rubble. He reports that he is not strong enough. Wade reports that the talent is mediocre. Any outstanding abilities, strong but not superior to these monsters, good adventurers, but nothing more. He is unwavering, and that is enough. The woman reports that he is in all of this, and thinks that he has significant spirit and tenacity. Wade says that because he is weak, he tries his best, falls every time but still gets up, and he has a soul that cannot be broken. He says that this is what is beautiful. Wade strikes the stone creature, making a thumping and cracking sound. He breaks the rocks. The girl asks if that was the technique itself, and he says the magical energy hasn't fully worn off yet. Wade says he's already starting to feel it working. The guy raises his fists, and around him several creatures with horns cheer and raise their hands. No information. The girl says she's just worried about Wade and therefore isn't against revenge. Wade says he wishes they could decide on a successor to the dungeon sooner rather than later. He says, "Huh," and reports that he sees who he sees. The woman says she hopes she's recording this now, and the fairy says, "That's wonderful, Miss Lemmy." Wade and the other characters express confusion and question what. He says that it's great, and suggests that we get started. Wade tells the gentleman from the Dungeons of Dragons that it's a pleasure to meet them. The girl with horns and the man with the beard listen. The guy with the hat touches his chin thoughtfully. The girl with short hair looks surprised. He says that he has one request for them. Wade says he wants to be given control of the dungeon. The man asks if this stranger really has anything to do with domination. The lady announces that she wants her to hand over control of the dungeon, stating that she's a little late and crediting herself as Dungeon Lord to Lemmy. He and the man look at the screen with the lady's image. Bottom left, a rotation of the magical attack. The woman thinks it's a magical projection, and her attacks won't do anything. The man asks who's the master here. Wade says he is. The man asks if there are any questions. The man apologizes and says he didn't expect a mortal to become a dragon master, noting that Wade looks like he's been beaten. The man shouts, "Hey!" He says that he is proposing to solve everything in the world, and he has a reasonable proposal in return. He thinks that when he hands over power to him, we will receive as many documents as we have at the moment, as well as reliable food products and rare resources. The woman talks about resources. The girl talks about meat. Wade says someone gave in really quickly. The woman asks him what he thinks and says that she thinks the offer is not bad. He says that if he hands over the management to her, he can get to the top, and that this is not a reason for refusal, but the man says that this is a pretty serious deal and asks why Wade needs this dungeon. The woman says she's a researcher interested in the underground life and its inner world. Wade asks if there really is a catch. He says the more samples, the better. The woman says the local goblins are highly intelligent, and it's interesting that skill development only occurs in the dungeon, as well as differences in the demon's brains. She says she wants to train them and find out. Someone says they need to test the effects of new medicines because he needs a large quantity, after all. Wade says he'll interrupt the man and that they won't give him the dungeon. The man says yes, and of course, dragons. The man says, oh. The woman says that if she said something wrong, she apologizes and says that if the other person doesn't understand, then it's definitely not up for discussion. He says that they thought they could come to an agreement, and they agree. Wade reports that. The woman says she'll pick Eliza up later. Eliza says, yeah. The woman says she wants to have a good time. Wade says they're on his side, but asks them to leave him alone because if he leaves, then he looks puzzled. The girl isn't worried and promises to tell him later that he'll be the dungeon master, no matter what. The girl says they can handle it. He shouts that it must help because they are attacking and the currency master. He regained his surprise. Wade says they've decided to run there. Then he says, promise. After that, Wade says, well, well. The woman reports that Lemmy asked not to kill everyone. The man thinks the main thing is that everyone lives no matter what form they take. In the upper right-hand corner, orcs are shouting and preparing to attack. Wade, he really wanted dragon blood, but now the campaign is content with them guys. He strikes the girl in the hat with his sword, which deflects the attack and releases an electric current in response. The girl in the hat reveals that she is a vampire and that they are quite cruel. The woman explains that she will use enhanced magic for storage and needs time to prepare. The girl says she understands. Wade engages the enemy, striking with his sword. He strikes with a spear after being told it's a way to provide for vampires. The girl responds by saying the weapon has changed, and he remarks that it's interesting. Wade shoots his bow, hitting the target. The woman mimes multiple arrows and shouts that the master is protecting her. She says she's moving faster and doesn't know how much Master Dolt can learn. She's having trouble even stalling for time. He says to promise. The man lacks the grip of a sword and says not to be a wimp, Sonny. The girl says that you need to think and decide, and also says that she is doing all she can. Wade tells her she hopes to win the upcoming battle and wishes her luck. The girl quickly charges with her sword, shouting that she doesn't understand how to change weapons. Wade tells her she must answer the master. A woman says she underestimated. A man was stabbed in the neck. A girl with a dream reports this. A woman reports that a guy let her use his inside hand. The guy screams and says he couldn't. Wade says he doesn't know what kind of magic it is, but the girl still didn't make it. The girl shouts, "Teacher Dolta!" Wade reaches out to the magic circle. The woman says that she is simply interested in tasting blood, and it does not depend on the mission, and also says that the interlocutor spoke about a child and an old witch. The woman says she can't let Wade leave because he's too important to her. Wade says he has no intention of leaving. He says it's the curse of the blood chain. Then he says, huh? In surprise. Wade reports that the blood he drank has turned into a chain and he can't control it, asking if it's the effect of the magic he created. The woman explains that blood is an excellent medium for magic, especially for vampires, and since he said he needed dragon blood, she thought so. The woman says they want live specimens as much as he does. The woman says she'll take some vampire blood, that the syringe is sturdy and everything will be fine. Wade says to wait and correct the confusion. The girl lies on the ground and laughs. He thanks her for her help. The girl says she still won, but she handled the vampires well. The man thinks he's been cornered and destroyed and asks why their enemy is praising them. The woman tells Sonny that she's done her job and says she's done well. Sonny replies that it's an honor. The man says that the others should also be praised and think that our work is finished. The girl says she wonders how Wade is doing now. The text says Dolta and Sonny had a tough fight, but what about Wade and his partner? A woman announces that a fierce battle between the dungeon masters is beginning. He and the winged woman prepare for battle. A man and a woman watch the action. Wade reports that his body is fine, his mind is fine, and he's referring to the concept of the president's dungeon and that there are no restrictions between them. The woman says it's too complicated for amateurs and advises on the price before it's too late, as well as whether this is Wade's first time in the dungeon. He says that there will be no such treatment. The man laughs. The woman tells Wade that there are no restrictions, but the owner of this place does not allow the use of the dungeon's help, and Wade says that they cannot use it, after which he begins to say what it means. The woman says that the restoration and method will not work here and asks him to pay her for it. He is behind her. Wade says he's opening up and informs you that your interlocutor will be working later. He says that when he managed to block it. The man says it's a winged beetle. He says not to underestimate the little ones. The man yells, "No." The woman laughs and says that it is a special seal made especially for Wade. Wade says they've come to attack the dungeon, and they have plenty more of those seals. He thinks they have a girlfriend. Wade asks if she still wants to speak out. He says he wants to punch him in the face. The girl screams Wade's name. The woman says she loves fools who don't know their place because they die quickly, but she is a person of principle and believes it would be rude to torment a fool. Wade says he has come up with something interesting and is offering a good win-win idea. The master can take over another dungeon by touching the core of that place. The woman says the lizard most likely brought them here for this. Wade thinks he has the same conditions and doesn't need to negotiate with them. All he needs to do is touch something at the end of the core, and it sounds very simple. The woman says that she will destroy the guys and then take their dungeon, the heart, which does not really like to move and therefore relies on its ability. He rushes forward, attacking the woman. Wade says the mana cube is his masterpiece. At first, the sounds of impacts and falls are heard. He jumps among the falling cubes. Then a man sitting on the couch announces that he specializes in golems. He responds with a look of bewilderment. Wade explains that the document was originally just a piece of metal with the ability to replicate, but the girl thought she'd altered it and turned it into a swarming golem. Wade explains that they were trapped inside it, and the girl explains that the dungeons are full of traps. The woman reports that the mana cube can read and manipulate liquid, and it can attack and defend itself at will. The woman thinks this is too difficult for a human due to the blood and flesh. It screams, "Damn it," and makes a whoosh sound when it's hit. Wade says it hurts a bit. The woman says that even though she's immortal, it really does hurt. The man and woman make sudden movements, colliding with the cubes and causing destruction. The woman yells at Wade. The man says he's quite strong for a human, plus he has some strength training. The man says that although he's stubborn, he's still broken a couple of bones. Wade says the lack of insurance against pain and wonders if someone has gone mad from the disease of death in the dungeon. He tells her that he's going to die anyway. Then he tells her to beg for mercy and that the object is undergoing a transformation. The woman says the grave is already waiting for him. The man shouts at Wade. Wade stands in front of a glowing ball of energy. The girl screams, "Run." He starts running fast. Wade says he wants to understand the trick behind the technique. He says he has something else and asks her to just feel it. The girl says she doesn't have to imitate her technique since he always helps her anyway. Wade says he wants to provide even more. The girl listens silently. He says he'll show you everything he can and asks you not to be angry. He tells you that the other person will turn into a grandfather until he masters all the techniques. The man responds that it's good. The girl laughs and says she's joking and that she'll practice with Wade even when he's old. The text says it'll just be a start. Wade looks at her with a determined expression. He believes that first, you need to allow the magic to flow through the body. That's where the magic begins, and the key is precise manipulation of the action. He advises that you need to scan the maximum amount of magic in the weapon and release it all at once. The girl says she's already come up with a name for this device. Wade asks what the hell it is, and the girl is surprised that it's ugly. Wade realizes it's the Okui magic blade style and the flame tail critical school. He thought that in the room where everything was made of cubes, only one wall hadn't moved, and that the man had been standing in front of it for a long time, meaning there was something he wanted to protect. He explained that everyone places their treasures where they are best protected, and the core is right here. Wave reports that they won this fight. He tells me to behave and quietly shows TSE. The woman reports that they are communicating very poorly with them and the credit card girl, Miss Lemming. The woman thinks that the girl obviously doesn't know much about the dungeons and asks if she's willing to participate further. Wade says that even if the girl were somewhat knowledgeable, he wouldn't listen to her and would call her either an idiot or a genius. The man explains that the dungeon is extremely valuable and they want to own many influential people. He says he's not the only dungeon master who wants to expand his sphere of control. The dungeons are shrouded in profit. Profit creates demand. Warfare in the dungeons has been waged since ancient times, and now Wade takes part in them. A woman points to 3 cubes on pedestals surrounded by stones. This panel shows the stones beginning to fall and shatter. In the top panel, a winged character touches the wall, making a sound. The girl says, well, Wade says it's a portal that connects to other dungeons. The man asks what it is. The girl screams, "What's it done?" The man says that with his help, they can take a trip to the dungeon that was taken from Lemmy. The girl says that it is convenient. The woman says that they have already explained this. Then the man says, the woman thinks the girl with glasses and she are so excited that they were using technical jargon, but the girl says she didn't understand anything. The man apologizes and laughs. The woman explains that Levi will now be busy with something for a while, but only. The woman thinks the hardest part will be with Wade. The woman feels that her dungeon is so physical that managing 2 dungeons will be difficult. Wade listens. The woman says he can leave her and they'll be allies, so to speak. He says he doesn't trust her. The woman exclaims that she has repented. The woman reports that she would like to explore the dungeon as part of the collaboration, and also the idea that she has options to discuss with that witch, and she really likes this idea. Wade says he became curious. A woman asks Wade what his ultimate goal is in the dungeon wars. He explains that's why he decided to partner with her, and she, wondering if she's really interested, readily repents. The text explains that influential players from all over the world are vying for territory, and that these are the dungeon wars. According to D, the woman reports that with 2 dungeons in her possession, she becomes a good target for others and needs the knowledge of this glasses wearer to compete with them. Wade says that if he were a good ally, he would refuse the dungeon master's condition, but at the same time he wonders why they are all like this. The woman says that, by the way, Wade has plans to replenish his strength, and this will be useful for the future. Wade says that maybe they are golems. The man reports that they defeated even his goblins. He says she reminds him of someone. The source says they can't give orders remotely yet, as long as Eliza and the golems are in control, and when they encounter well-organized and disciplined forces, they need experienced people capable of taking charge. The man thinks that. Wade says he forgot about it. The girl asks why. Wade says the medical workers. The woman says that a court knight is not the king's elite. He says that he will become a court knight, and that asking him to leave this and go away is... Wade says he told him the same thing about Sasha's childhood friends, with whom he had a falling out. The girl asks what that is. The guy calls Wydalov. He is walking along the road to the village. The girl said she'd heard about the opportunities on the trip and wanted to go with him. Wade said there was no need, as she wanted to become a court knight, and said her talent was recognized, so she shouldn't miss the opportunity. He says the girl always said she would become a strong knight and protect the village. The girl screams at him to stay here then. He says he wants to leave. The man says that because of the war, people are starving all over the world, including here, and he thinks that he is not an adult and cannot work, and if he does not exist, others will be able to feed the rest. Wade says he's an orphan, and the villagers have been kind to him, and he wants to repay them, at least with this gesture. The woman says it's unnecessary and calls him a fool. Her hand reaches for the hilt of her sword. He says it's a gift for good luck in his career and hands it to the girl, who is holding back tears. The woman says she is not happy to receive this from Wade. The girl screams that Wade is an idiot and that she never wants to see him again. Wade says he offers forgiveness. The woman says she's probably a beautiful girl now. He says it's whiny and suggests she's thinking about her future. Wade reports that he heard her name while staying in the harbor area and thought he hadn't seen her in a long time, so that's how they parted ways. He says that she is fair and beautiful, one of the best court knights of the capital. The boy screams and runs toward the girl. The girl strikes him with her sword. The man announces that the girl has returned. The girl strikes back. Wade asks the man if he can stand and tells the man he can. The man raises his hand. The girl says she can't afford to be weak. The woman says that the lesson is over and she can take a deep breath. The man replies that it's good. Woman thanks for guidance. The crowd declares this impossible and says they can't just up and leave. Another panel shows a city with a castle in the background and people on the streets. The man says he heard Saint Sophia is taking care of her. The woman says she's beautiful and so strong, and the man says it's Sasha. The woman says she doesn't know how to fight, and Wade says it's no big deal and that he'll teach her. Wade laughs and shouts that she won, and the woman, her hand raised, rejoices with him. The woman, in various looks at them with surprise, and the 2 guys laugh, and the woman says she's lost touch with Wade and would like to apologize to him one day, asking how he's doing. She thinks it's a gift for good luck in his career. The girl claims it's Sasha and that she's here. The woman says, "Welcome." Sophia announces that she just finished taking a bath. Wade exclaims, turning to Mistress Sophia. Sophia thinks there's no need to wave and invites him in. Wade replies, "That's fine." Sophia asks. A woman reports being accused of disturbing a man at work. The man says everything is fine and asks her not to apologize. The woman says she has something important to tell the other person. The girl says she wants to know what it is. The girl reports hearing about the dragon dungeon. The woman says it's only rumored to be located in a remote area, which, she says, hasn't been explored yet. Wade reveals that Brad is a dragon slayer who challenged and was defeated. The girl says he's the ultimate dragon slayer and thinks his pride was hurt, which is why he's currently training. The man thought that at the moment they should be happy about surviving, but the dungeons are teeming with dragons, or even Brad can't compare. The more powerful the king, the stronger the magic of the dungeon, the stronger the magic of the environment, the more the number and power of demons grows. The woman says that if the dragon's dungeon is overrun with demons, she will go explore the dungeon. Wade says it's dangerous. The woman starts to speak, but is interrupted. The woman says that there should be as few scouts as possible, otherwise the dragons might become suspicious, and that is too dangerous. Wade says that if that's the case, he'll definitely go and allay Mistress Sophia's fears. The woman reveals her name, Sasha. He says that, "Dear Sasha." The woman says thank you to me. The man looks at the woman. The woman says that it is absolutely necessary to return. The woman says this is happening. The girl screams, "Higher, higher!" In the upper right panel, a man shouts for Sasha and asks what's wrong, then hears a loud scream in the distance. On the left, tree branches are depicted against the sky. The woman informs him that this is the dragon's dungeon. Wade is waiting, she tells him, Mistress Sophia. The woman says that Sasha will go for the sake of her love, Sophia, and promises to relieve him of the insurance. The girl tells Dolta that she called him because she needs help and asks if he will refuse her. The woman says she didn't expect this from Wade, but if she can help in any way, he shouldn't be shy and should teach. The woman asks him to teach her how to make Wade lose his head in love. She says she wants him to want her like a wild animal. The woman thought that seeing Wade give it his all to achieve her goal is wonderful, and that her heart rejoices with tenderness, but this… The girl remains silent, then asks when the man will have balls, and asks to see them. The man says that of course he will. Wade reveals that it's a concentrated aphrodisiac made from succubus saliva. Just one drop provides 3 days of satisfaction and health. He thought a normal person wouldn't survive it, but the current Wade will be fine. He'll be able to resurrect. The woman says that curiosity is above all else, and he says that this lack of principles, and that he knew that he turned to the right person. Wade says, "Oh yeah." The girl says she didn't expect to meet anyone here and thought she came here to find medicine for her village. The man explains that this is a dangerous place and advises her to be careful. He informs her that she is a court knight and asks what she is doing here alone. The man thinks she is a new adventurer. The guy in the hat says hi and asks if he remembers their meeting in the capital and if he recognizes him. The girl says the guy works in a magic shop, and the guy in the hat says it's definitely the same meeting. The woman asks if they know each other. Wade squeezes his hand sharply and looks surprised again. The woman says it's a colossal magical force, and she controls it by taking human form, but there's no doubt it's the dragon from the labyrinth. The man says he doesn't understand why Delta is with him. The girl says that if suddenly the monster breaks out of the labyrinth, the man sighs. The woman says she wants to understand what's going on. The girl demands to come back. The hero says that he must destroy the dragon, and if someone supports her, then he will also have to fight for the sake of Madame Sophia. The woman reports that she is back, and Wade says that the patrol is over. He says he wants to understand what this object is. The girl stands holding another person's hands. Wade reports that it was an uninvited guest whom he treated with his fist. The woman said that Dolta asked not to kill him, so she held on. The man says that the court knight went this deep alone and says that they will have to interrogate someone. He says he is a court knight and asked. Wade announces that it's Sasha. Wade stands up abruptly. The man asks Wade if he knows her, and he tells her they grew up together and asks what happened. The woman felt like she suddenly attacked them in a state of complete confusion. The man says that even now, if she wakes up, she could attack again and says they're from. The woman asks where she is and says it's her. The man says it's something solid though. The woman asks if it's Sasha. Wade says that he is worried about whether the woman remembers him at all. The woman pronounces Wade's name with interest. He turns around sharply, noticing something about the man with long hair, surprised. Wade speaks randomly and yells, "Stop." The woman says yes indeed. Wade says they've done something weird here. The man asks what Wade is doing here. Wade says it's just that woman. He asks if everything is okay. The girl says that everything is fine. Wade says he needs to clarify whether anyone is being forced to obey the dragon on the man, that the idea that the dragon is fierce but still their ally, and points out that the body constantly considers itself protective magic, as befits a court knight, and Wade understands this. The man. He says they were in shock and asks why the girl attacked them. The girl apologizes and insists that, due to fatigue from exploring the labyrinth, she mistook them for enemies and reacted reflexively. Wade says that they have shown the enemy so far, but Dolta is unlikely to be confused, and Dolta tells his name. He says Sasha isn't the type to attack her own people. The girl who needs to figure out if she was under the influence of something to keep everyone safe. The man says he heard everything. The woman president, who analyzes her specialty, asks him to leave it to her. Wade says no, not him. The man with the raised hand says he's the court knight and finds it interesting. He says, just no tricks, and her methods are reliable. The woman says she's not worried and suggests conducting a check for traces of magic. The woman says that if she's ready to cooperate, the phrase, "you're not enemies," should appear. The man says they're not enemies. The woman says she's putting the gun down. Wade says he's putting the gun down. The woman says she's opening up. He reacts with surprise. Wade says it's just armor and responds with respect. The man screams what's going on and tries to fight back. He says that if there was protective magic here, it would interfere with the analysis. The girl says that only the armor responded to the disarming magic, and in fact, she's just having fun. The man starts to speak, but is interrupted. The woman says she understood something, and Wade asks if she understood anything. He reports that he sees no evidence of control. The man responds to the exclamation. The woman explains that there is no such thing as brainwashing, at least not in the magical sense, and that there are demons in the world, although they can manipulate people's minds without magic. The woman asks if the young lady understands what she's talking about. Wade screams that he's not under control and demands to be punished. He tells Sasha to calm down, and Sasha yells that he's asking for it. Wade says they're just saying it's possible. He turns to a girl named Wade. The man says there are no problems, so everything's fine. The girl says yes for now, but she'd better keep an eye on her. He is silent. Wade says he sees the situation. The girl reports that they are cooperating with goblins here. The ogre says he understands the boys as best he can. The man says they work in the field like that, and he said he was cursed. The girl exclaims, "Mrs. Sasha." The woman with the stick runs up and says it's Mrs. Sasha. The woman with the scythe turns to the man and calls him. The girl reports that local leaders were actively involved in training the labyrinth, and she heard that one of them accompanied the dragon slayer. Wade says this guy put a spoke in his wheel. Wade thought he was going to kill him, but he seems to be happily here. The girl says he has a wealth of knowledge and a genuine talent for farming, something even the goblins acknowledge. The man thinks this isn't entirely true, and the girl tells him he lacks the talent of an aristocrat, and the world has been cruel to him. The girl asks what they are to the master and says he's hers. The girl says it's serious competition and asks who the rival is, whether it's a man or a woman or a childhood friend. Wade announces that a madhouse is brewing and suggests they go to their deaths, while the other man shouts to the knight that he's come to save him and demands he get to work. He says it's a pretty busy place and asks if she's calmed down yet. She replies, yes, she has, and asks him to forgive her for her outburst. Wade says he's talking about a friend and asks how long it's been since they've seen each other. The girl replies, it's been 13.5 years. He says the girl hasn't changed. The girl says he's gotten older. The man laughs. Wade says he worked hard to get to his level. He says the girl has always been better than him, and she replies that it's not true. The girl thinks he made the decision to go on a trip himself, and it's as if she was left behind. Wade says his name and clarifies that he is here. The woman says she's very sorry that everything happened that way, and although he was thinking about her, she felt abandoned. He says there's no need to worry, it was in childhood and he acted in the heat of the moment. Wade says that he also regrets that he was so harsh with the interlocutor, and added that he says it's never too late to start over. The woman tells Wade that of course it's not too late, and Wade yells out the woman's name. He reports that they've finally reached the right place. He thinks they can now begin implementing the plan. The girl says everything will be fine and asks them not to worry. Wade says he can't be embarrassed that this happened and that he's not going to give up. She says they must keep moving forward, no matter the difficulties. The girl says that, by the way, the girl asks why Wade lives in the dungeon, and Wade's heart that a lot of things have happened. He announces that he's become a dungeon master, and the girl listens in surprise. Wade asks why the girl here is reporting that someone asked her to investigate the dungeons of dragons, imagining an underground kingdom, and she wants to stop it. The girl thought she was in trouble and trying to figure out who to hand over the position to. Wade says she's the underground master. The woman says she doesn't want Sasha to be rebuilt and doesn't want her to hate her, calling her sweet. He yells at Sasha and asks what happened. A woman reports that the dagger she was hiding is pierced through Wade's body. Wade says he doesn't understand what's happening and tries to fight off the attacking woman with wings and claws. The woman says, "Don't move." The woman makes a whooshing sound. Wade says he can't afford to lose. A woman screams at Wade. Wade says that if he can't win, he will die. He says he was unconscious for 2 minutes and asked where Sasha was. The girl says it took time to recover from the blow, and that he clearly relaxed and didn't have time to fend off the attack. He says he understands and will be more careful. Wade says there's a night. The girl warns that she's not suitable. The woman says she doesn't like him and that he feels dangerous. The girl asks Wade if he's awake. He asks if the girl is okay and if she's under some kind of magic. He regains his surprise. The girl says there's no need to worry, she's already beaten all the bad guys. Wade asks what's going on. The woman says she's wearing a memory suppression collar, which should keep them safe in time. The woman explains that her mind wasn't controlled by magic, meaning she was subjugated by another method, similar to hypnosis, which influences a person's words and actions. The woman explains. A mouse woman who used a collar to return her mind to its pre-brainwashing state, and a memory suppression collar to completely seal away her memories for the past 10 years. Wade says it was great that he told me cute stories about her. The woman says that without them, she would have reverted to being a baby. He says it's the best decision at the moment, but in this situation, he supports Lemmy and regrets it. The girl says she can be praised. He understands and thanks her. Wade says it's good. The girl held back and thanks her. The girl asks him to praise her for not killing her. Then the girl laughs. The man says that this is only a temporary measure to reduce the control. She needs maximum effort with suggestion. He says that it is understandable. Wade says this place is the entrance to a cave and warns that it's very dark inside. His message is that you need to be careful not to fall into the abyss. The little fairy makes shrill sounds and the man in the pumpkin head costume raises his hands up. Wade says that whoever sent Sasha here is most likely the culprit behind the test. He reports that the court knight found himself in the scientific labyrinth for a reason and doubts it was a coincidence. The girl agrees. The woman says that if mind control is possible without magic, then close contact is required. The court knights are direct subordinates, usually located in the capital, and the circle of suspects is greatly narrowed. Wade says this means that someone is in the castle. The man says the knights often visit the city, patrol it, and sometimes visit the branches. The woman says it's a hassle and suggests finding them herself by asking everyone in town. Wade says he's amazed by his interlocutor's enthusiasm. She says that, having agreed, she considers the information a treasure and constantly confirms it to Wade, but now she feels like she made a mistake. The woman agrees that if they commit a crime, it will help them plan their next steps. He says it's a good idea, but he can't get out of the labyrinth. The girl says it's their turn to activate it. The girl says she'll find out everything through the Seekers Guild. The woman believes all information about the labyrinth goes there. Her shop is in business with the royal castle, and she thinks she can sell herself inside under the pretext of deliveries. The woman says Eliza is skilled in reconnaissance and is useful in battle, and the girl says she'll try her best. The government representative says he'll go too. The man asks if he's sure everything will go according to plan. The man thinks connections with the aristocracy are useful and let him go, as there will be more. The man says that when the court knight proved useless, he began to lose hope, but the heavens didn't leave him. He says he's found the right moment to escape, and everyone will be put in jail. The man says they're leaving, to which the other man promises them luck. Wade reports that this is a good place to hide. He reports that opponents of artificial suggestion are dangerous, but he believes in them, and the requests begin slowly. Wade says his name. The girl says that everything is so interesting here and offers to meet. He asks, what? The woman tells her to come with him. Wade says that he is now temporarily a nanny. The woman reports that the Hat Woman told her that he now lives in a labyrinth. He says that you can say that too. The girl asks why Wade doesn't come back and suggests they go back to the village together. He says he's always thought about how to get out of here and get revenge, but for some reason he never thought about returning home. He says he's talking about returning. Wade says he'll try to make sure they can return home, and agrees that the girl is right. Wade explains that he was grateful to the village, but at the time, it didn't feel like home. He says he could never shake the feeling that he didn't belong there, so he left. He says the first place he could call home was a refuge for those in dire straits who couldn't find shelter elsewhere. The girl says she had the best catch today. Wade points out that Sylvia was in the greatest danger and that she should definitely reflect on her behavior. Sylvia agrees. Wade says that's one thing, but Quinn is also explosive and asks how Sylvia can lecture him. Quinn replies that he'll explain it all to her with cubes. He says he can't believe the girl actually came here. The girl thinks she came to help. The man says he's also surprised by his own determination. Wade says they're acting like children, honestly. The man, the girl, and the boy are raising their hands and moving their bodies, making the wah sound. The man says he really can eat everything. He knows him. The woman trusts the man with Maybreeze. The woman tells the children that if they don't hurry, she'll eat all of Goza's signature Firebird soup. Wade asked what magical book he found today. The old man described magic that puts living beings into a state of suspended animation. The old man claims it's true, but Wade says it looks complicated. The man explains that it can easily be overridden by other magic, making it useless in combat and perhaps more useful to doctors. He then says that, overall, it doesn't quite fit into his plans. Wade reports that the more complex the dungeons, the closer they are to dangerous ancient magic, and that their plan for a larger dungeon is correct. The girl says they're off to adventure and that she'll clear everything out, anywhere. The woman says they're counting on Wade, and the girl thinks it might be a good idea to exercise some caution. He says it's more of this lecturing and asks how many other mommies are there. The man addresses Wade by name. Wade says he's lost in thought and asks for forgiveness. The girl tells Wade that his bag is glowing. Wade asks if it's the bag. The man says that this is the key to the mystery, and a thought that it opens the way to the next process. Wade only says an exclamation point of 3 exclamation points. The girl says that she is shining and beautiful. He tells her what it is. The girl asks what it is. Wade says it's a document that points to what was lost. Then, drops of liquid fall from the cave ceiling. Sounds of impacts and falls. The image contains no text or characters, only a dark droplet dripping from the surface. Wade says he can't afford to inherit the throne here and now, and that he must continue to follow. He says he is not going to give up. Wade states that they cannot afford to lose a single fighter and feel that if any of them die, all their efforts will be in vain. The girl tells Sasha about the project and then services Wade. He yells, "Run faster!" Wade says he will never forget those eyes that day. He says it was always looking for an interlocutor. The man says he's standing before the enemy who killed his comrades. Wade says he's been looking for someone to talk to for a long time. He asks if he remembers him. The man remains silent. Wade says the interlocutor appeared with the shadow that day. He reports that they are adventurers, as is known. This dungeon is dangerous, and they were prepared for this. Wade says that doesn't excuse whoever did the harm to them. He says that he must take revenge, and only he. Wade says he saw him in the past. The man says that this is how. He asks what the purpose of the destruction was and accuses him of taking a life that day. He reports that the enemy wasn't hunting for anything or anyone in their group, but simply appeared out of nowhere, killed their comrades, and disappeared. He asks why the enemy appeared again. Wade the Devil speaks, attacking a man with a shovel. The man asks why Wade is still alive. Wade thinks he killed everyone in the dungeons without exception. The man asks why he survived and warns that if he doesn't notice, something similar might happen. He says he's the one asking the questions here. The man says that the resurrection means he's the master of the dungeon. The man says that if that's the case, then he hits the man with a shovel. Wade says, "You're quick to decide victory." He reports that shadows are enveloping him and hindering his recovery. The man asks if Wade can calm down a bit now. He asks why him and says that he can't live and allow even the slightest possibility of something being left unfinished. The man thought that one of his comrades had used magic on him, that magic found at the bottom of the dungeon that puts the body into a state of suspended animation. Wade reports that the magic was used on him, the only one whose wounds could still be healed, and that this magic could deceive the interlocutor. He said that when the spell wore off, the interlocutor had already left. Wade says it's a rare ancient. He strikes the ground with a shovel. The man in the cloak notices this. He rushes at the man and says that he didn't answer his question. Wade says it's about why he killed his interlocutor's friend. Wade thought it was necessary to do so before he could save the world. Then a blow hits the man. He strikes, the man says it's time to go back, after which the man gets up and starts running. Wade lands a powerful punch on the man, who falls to the ground. The man says he can be hated as much as he wants. The girl screams, not killing Wade. He stabs her with the sword, then watches silently. He abruptly moves away, dodging a blast of fire. The woman tells the other side that it's unfair that they didn't include her in this battle. Wade yells, turning to Sasha and Nia, asking why they're here. The woman thinks that this girl came running to her. Sasha says that the shining thing he gave her determined her path. He suggests that Sasha leave. Wade says, "Run faster." The woman thought she sensed Wade's danger and wanted to help him, and that the thing ultimately formed her path to him. The man says she wasn't mistaken. He explains that it helps you find what you're looking for. The guy asks about the dragon. Wade tells him he's a criminal. Wade asks if the guy is ready for his fate. He says that his body can't withstand the dragon's fire, and as expected. Wade says it's time to retreat, and then he said the following. He says things are bad and suggests running away. Wade reports a change in attributes. This idea that the light is opposing me, and calls it a classic. He reports that he cannot throw the enemy a suitable place to him. Wade reports that he can't use magic because he can't concentrate. He thinks that if he can't concentrate, he won't be able to use magic at all. He reports that he has finally woken up and asks how he is feeling. Wade told him and informs him that he wants revenge. The woman tells him the offer is a trap. He thinks it's because she's a ghost. The woman reports that she has carefully studied Wade's magic, and the idea that his true self is only a soul, a spiritual entity, and that he stole his body. Wade thinks the useful ability is that the body can't be abandoned until it dies. In other words, captured alive. He calls this a harsh sentence. Wade asks if this is true. He says he's found a way to completely destroy his interlocutor. The man says he doesn't care that he's a ghost. Wade tells him they're not the type to give up and tells them to get ready. The man listens. He says he doesn't remember and doesn't want to remember his interlocutor. He's not interested, and his goal is to eliminate the impending danger, because in the face of catastrophe, everything else is irrelevant. The source reports that if things remain as they are, the world will perish. The woman smiles. Wade says the world will end and bans such nonsense. The man asked for a minute and said it seemed Wade was telling the truth. He thinks it's an apocalypse that will devour the entire world. The source says the bank is a disaster. The scene depicts a man in a hat walking forward with a determined expression on his face, followed by a girl with her hands raised to her face and a frightened look, and behind them stands a woman in a long dress and hat. Wade reveals that it is his mother. They are now reported to have met with every royal advisor. The woman asks if she's such an important person. Wade explains that she not only gives advice, but is also actively involved in political and military affairs. The girl says, "Wow." Wade explains that even he's never met her in person. The girl says, "Wow," with the holiest of them all. The man says they should be grateful for his reputation and connections now. The girl thanks him, but thinks he's annoying her. The woman says she didn't expect him to have such useful connections. The woman thinks she's already hungry because this guy's taking so long to get ready, and says aristocrats are so tiresome. Wade says they'll go out to eat after the meeting. He knows a great place. The woman points and says Wade's blood will do. The woman says she has no idea their crimes will soon be revealed, and he says they are too careless. Wade says let's also buy something tasty for the master and VG, because they'll probably appreciate treats that can't be made in the dungeon. The man listens silently with his beret, then turns and starts to leave. Two women invite you to move on. A man, a girl with ears, and a girl in a hat look at them. A woman reports that a disaster has engulfed the entire world, and then the thought that it is her mother. Wade reveals that his mother is the queen of the underworld, a being who has lived since time immemorial. He describes this being as a being who lives for her own pleasure, changing names and images, amusing herself and ridiculing this world, and that her favorite game is destruction and rebirth. The guy says that this witch created many civilizations but then destroyed them with simple radiation, and that the destruction of our civilization is only a matter of time. Perhaps it will happen in 100 years, or perhaps tomorrow. The woman says it's large scale, and the concern is, have they heard about the dungeon masters and the wars for control over them? Wade talks about the dungeon wars, the idea that it was at its origins without consent, and all this was simply to observe the war and keep track of the number of dungeons under its control. He says that his mother is no gift and asks what's next. Does he really kill innocents because it is connected with her destruction? He confirmed this. Wade reveals that he is destroying the dungeon all over the world to take away their immortality. He says that he kills all the witnesses, despite the fact that some of the people may be her eyes, and that these are sacrifices for the sake of saving more people. Wade says that if he hates him, then let him kill him. He'll just find a new body. The man remains silent. The woman tells Wade. Wade says, well. He reports that he can't bear to think that this happened, and that he must now move on. Wade is silent, coughing. The man says he knows and doesn't think it's worth doing, at least not right now. He asks the president's interlocutor if he knows where his mother is now. The man thinks she adores power and might try to undermine the foundations of some state, most likely the entire capital. Wade reveals that the capital is the very place where the hideout that controls Sasha's mind is located, and says that he has a bad feeling about it. The woman says she gave Eliza the same magical artifact. The woman reassures her friend, and he replies, yes, Mrs. Lemmy. The woman thought that the artifacts were connected to each other. If one of them broke, the other would also break, and if something happened, the artifact would immediately report it. The woman reports that it was just an illusion. The woman says, that's it. The man and Wade look at her and the creature next to her. The woman says she'll fly there and asks where this capital is. The man kicks her. Wade reports that there's a large city to the southeast, at the foot of a castle that's hard to miss. The girl says that if she flies closer, she'll be able to track the four of them's magic. He asks if his interlocutor can handle it. She replies that she can handle it and that she is faster than the wind. Wade says he'll be back in time for dinner. He says this isn't just a cave, but an entrance to another dimension, and warns that there could be danger inside. This idea that one must be careful and not lose sight of one's friend. Wade says that if it is her, she will definitely be able to overcome any influence and return harmless. The girl says that she flew away. He hopes. A little earlier, the man thanks Miss Sophia for her precious time, and she informs him that there is no need for formalities. The woman reports that she heard about them venturing into the dragon's dungeon with the dragon slayer himself, and says she was impressed by them surviving. The guy reveals that the people are actually companions he's seen for the first time, and asks who they are. Wade says she's not interested in the Count at all, suggesting they sense her interest, so it's best to start a conversation right away. The girl reports that they came from the dungeon of the dragon itself and helped the Count in his rescue inside the cave, thanks to which he advised arranging a meeting with Madame Sophia. The woman asked why they needed to meet with her and reported that one of the royal knights had been discovered in the dungeon. The man shouted that she dared to speak without permission. Wade reports that after analysis, it was discovered that she was exposed to the weather in the capital. She must have continued to shift consciousness and ground in a state of complete insanity, even attacking him, even though they were acquainted. The girl asks what her heart is and what the royal knights are under her jurisdiction. The woman says it's outrageous and says she's launching an immediate investigation. He thanks her for her help and says everything went well. Wade says he can't believe they're still alive. The man thinks it's impossible, and the girl says they need to be careful. He says he can't take it anymore and shouts that he was scared and that the girl is impudent. The girl thinks, sorry, she's hungry. Wade says she smells so nice. He thinks it's the smell of magic that has aged for tens of thousands of years. The girl says that there is nothing in this world that cannot be bought with money, and that money is power. The girl says she doesn't know what to do. The man says he's talking about tens of thousands. The girl asks him what he means. The man confirms and says he. The girl announced that she had made a decision. Then she surrounded herself with a shadow which quickly encircled her. Wade says that only the protection from her spell causes such a strain. The girl makes a sound, then a pop and a flash. The man says it's bad. The guy asks Ms. Sophia what's going on. Sophia says it's a problem. The girl screams. The woman says they don't stand a chance against her. The man asks what will happen to him now, and the woman says she'll have to treat them the same way. Then the man apologizes. The woman says she's now leaving everything to Wade. The woman says that the dragon's dungeon, she thought it would be a little boring. The girl says things are getting interesting. The image shows a dragon rushing into trouble, destroying the earth with its claws. At the bottom, a fire engulfing a building is depicted, with flames and smoke. A bird is visible flying above the buildings in the center of the scene. On the right, a destroyed wooden frame is shown, surrounded by flames. The man reports that the magical aura of 4 people has disappeared. A dragon appears on the adjacent panel, destroying something. A large dragon eye is depicted below. The woman says, it's possible, who knows? The man asks if they're dead. The text says the most powerful fight against the most terrible thing is beginning. Wade tells Sunny he's already there. Sunny says she needs to mentally prepare herself. The man says the girl has finally woken up. Wade yells at Miaye. The man asks what he's doing. The man thought he wanted to cry too and asked what he was doing. He says they're in the library and asks where they are. Sunny greets Wade, wishing him a good morning and asking if he slept well. The guy is worried that they are in a library. The woman says that yes, but there is something else here. The image shows a close-up of a rabbit making the sound pew. The woman says it's adorable. The man sits halfway down among most of the animals. The girl says this place is filled with magic and that they are in a dungeon. The man says that's unlikely. The girl asks if this is a heavenly gaze. The girl says that Sophia teleported them here and asks if they have forgotten about it. Wade says that if she is an ancient mage who has lived for several thousand years, it is difficult to imagine what she has managed to learn during this time, and that she probably brought Sasha to this state. The man says they're alive. That's a stroke of luck, and warns them that there might be traps. The girl asks if that means they're in great danger, and the man confirms it. The woman says they need to find a way out urgently. The man says he's fed up with these dungeons. Wade says he needs help. The cat says that he can offer his paw. Wade says the cat has spoken. The cat reveals his name is Lawrence and that he was human. The girl says that Sophia locked her here, and now she is in the same situation as them. The cat asks if we agree with the Force. He explains that they are in the dungeon of memory, turning his attention to Sophia. The cat thinks there are no traps that can kill, but if they lose, they can lose their memory and become an animal. The man says that becoming an animal is madness. The cat announces its presence. The girl with the ears says she can't believe this happened. The woman in the hat smiles and says it can't be true. The man with the short hair says they need to figure this out. The man says he's changed. Wade says he doesn't believe it. The girl says that they are already in her trap. The man thinks that this is really so. The guy says that he's already forgetting something and he is scared. The cat explains that when a person looks at a memory, they look at a part of themselves, and that action must be taken as soon as possible. The girl asks how he retains his memories. The cat reveals that he used to be a mage, with the idea that memory processing is his specialty and that he maintains his memory magic. The woman says it's clear. The woman says she can cut it a little. The man and the boy say it's a cat and call him Dolta's teacher. Wade informs that just one drop of blood is enough to make sure that the interlocutor is not an enemy and not the master of this dungeon, otherwise the wound will instantly heal. The cat is silent. The woman in the hat with a knife in her hand doesn't speak either. The cat says he doesn't mind. The man says regret is perfectly natural in such a situation. The cat tells him the wound isn't healing, and the man thinks he sees it. It's not an enemy and now needs to be treated. The man laughs and asks for forgiveness, and the girl says it means he's not the master of the dungeon. Wade reports that everything is fine now and asks to lend a hand. The woman says that this is magic that can change fate and strength, that it will help the cat overcome strength. The cat asks what the girl did. The girl says that it is the curse of the truth lover. The main goal is verification. This is what your blood was needed for. From this moment, you will be forced to tell the truth. The woman says he's not the dungeon master, but that doesn't mean he can't be trusted. Wade reports that Sophia can't leave this place unattended, meaning one of her subordinates must be here. He says the person he's talking to is one of the later ones, the one with common sense, which makes him suspicious, especially since he was the one who spoke to them first. The woman says that if she makes a mistake, she apologizes and offers to reintroduce herself. The girl says there's bloodshed, and the other girl says the teacher is scary. Lawrence reveals that he is the mage in charge of managing the Dungeon of Memory, and that he is their enemy. Lawrence then reveals his name. The woman screams. Wade says he knew the man, the cat reports. The cat says she's clearly relaxed. The man says he's only had good times with books and animals. The man says that if the secret is revealed, nothing can be done, and says that it is enough to pretend. Wade states that he won't let anyone bother him. The second panel shows Wade stepping forward, surrounded by potential. The woman asks if this means this is her true form, and the man with the small creature says that it can't be. He thought that's exactly what it was, and says that they are both beautiful. The woman says she doesn't care. Wade says she's hot. She warns him that if he's an enemy, she'll kill him. Wade says it's not his place to teach her, but he advises her to be careful. He says to watch. A boy screams as books fall on him. The girl, surprised, says she doesn't understand what's happening. The man asks Eliza if she's okay and notices that the books fell right in her face. Eliza asks if she really did that. Wade tells them to move on. The girl is silent, her expression frightened. The woman says she's awake. He says, damn. The girl with the ears regains her composure. Wade says his magic turns memories into books and asks to see it. He reports that all these volumes are a collection of memories that he extracted from the memories of other people, and these animals are just their empty expressions. A guy with ears and shoulders who honestly wanted to take all the memories at once, but with long-lived creatures, it's not so simple. The man says he has plenty of time. The woman says that either they will use these spaces slowly or she will collect them herself. Wade says, choose the fate that suits you best. The man declines both options, explaining that he enjoys leisurely reading stories turned into books and intends to study them to the last page. The woman condemns this hobby, calling it terrible. The man says he enjoys his life. Wade throws a boomerang. Wade stands against a building as gunshots fall around him. He says, come on, and asks to become part of his library. Wade and the girl lunge at each other. Then comes a series of rapid blows, accompanied by a ringing sound. Wade notices an explosion around him. He says something strange is happening. The man says it's a document. The woman thought they came just in time. The girl speaks to Master Wade, turning to him, and he apologizes for being late as he lands. The man asks if this is a new guest. Wade informs him that a reliable soldier has arrived, and the man asks what story he will tell. He screams, "Woo! Create a magic circle." Wade says the body condition is pretty good power, but he says that speaking too closely is not the best idea and asks not to let him do it again. Wade says this is truly nasty magic. Eliza refuses and lunges with a knife. The girl says she'll take the blood sword, if that's okay. The man asks the master if he's okay, to which he replies, "Yes, thank you." The cat meows. The girl says she left her weapon in the warehouse during the audition at the royal castle, but she can help with this. The man listens attentively. Wade is convinced that touching is dangerous, but the only option is to approach and respond. Showing and hitting is the only option. Wade reports that recording memories in a book seems interesting. The man explains that with memory loss, mental abilities are also lost. Wade assigns Sonny to keep up, son. The woman says he's pretty good at figuring out how to get there, and he agrees. The girl asks if it's unexpected help, and the woman says unexpected help has arrived. Wade reveals that his mother does not kill enemies outright, and most likely imprisons them in the memories dungeon to gather information. The woman asks if he knows where it is, to which he replies that he does. He then explains that the magic in this place has created a problem for him, and he hasn't yet destroyed it. Wade says we need to get to that dungeon faster, and suggests speeding up. The woman says that coordinates can be placed altogether. He asks if he can do it with his magic. Wade informs them that with the weapons in the capital, their task rescuing their comrades in the dungeon will be accomplished. Nia agrees and says she's also curious about dirty magic. She asks what this place, the Dungeon of Memories, is like. Wade. He says that he hopes the magic he is going to use on the girl will work and asks if she has a plan on how to choose a job. The woman says he is, as always, quick on the uptake. The woman reports that the analysis has just finished. Sonny informs Wade that he's created a barrier that neutralizes magic and blocks all magical influences in this space, preventing the memory extraction from working. Wade thanks Sonny, and she says he's the best teacher, as always. Sonny feigns dissatisfaction and says that this is completely. He says that now we need to break down this barrier. Wade says they can try to touch him, but only over his dead body. The man in the hat directs flying cubes and cards at Wade. The woman says it's impossible. He and the man prepare to fight. He delivers a powerful blow to the men. Wade says his whole body hurts, and that's why he hates the equipment. He says he wants to live a peaceful life. He says to return his friends to their previous state. The man is lying on the floor. Wade says he just won't give up. He says it doesn't matter. A strong interlocutor is strong now, and there's no point in getting cocky, young man. Wade says, damn, and tries to hold on to the falling books as they come crashing down. He says that the anti-magic barrier turned out to be tricky, and because of this, he will have to resort to his trump card. Wade says they'll take turns and start with the person they're talking to. He says it's deep and reliable. The man says he's destroying Wade's memories. Wade says hey and calls out his name. A woman asks Wade if he is okay. Wade tells Sylvia her name. Sylvia laughs and says Wade has a funny face, asking if he was having a nightmare. Wade asks what he's doing here. He says it's a celebration. The man says he's still quite sleepy and it's his celebration for his adventurer rank increase. Wade says he's the main hero of the occasion and needs to get it together, and also reports that even the gifts are full of gifts. The man confirms this. He says he'll give her the strategy for his research. A woman thinks she's given him a healing ring, which will definitely come in handy. The girl explains that it's her favorite amulet, blessed by the god of war, but she gives it to Wade. Wade doesn't say such things. The man says that the book describes his unfinished magical developments, and if he dies, then his magical technique must be passed on. The girl tells Keen to wake up and says it's time for gifts. The woman says she likes to drink, but is completely insensitive to alcohol. Wade, worried that he's drunk to the point of unconsciousness, says it's just a holiday and he overdid it a bit. He says that he should sleep because he's probably tired. The girl is sure that every full moon turns into a wolf, hard. He says that yes. A man offers to make Keen a hangover cure. The woman says she will help. The man warns that everything she cooks turns to charcoal and asks that she not cook it. Wade says everyone has their own talents. The man demands attention and trust from those who are supposed to explain everything. The woman notices Mabrice's gloomy expression and asks what happened. Mabrice replies that he did, just like that. He says that he is very happy, but at the same time. Wade says his heart is breaking at what's happening, and the man says it's so weird. He asks why. The man says Master Wade. The man shouts, Master Wade. The cat reports that his consciousness is lost in memories. The man says it is useless. The woman says that if he interferes, he will die. The cat says, let him sleep because it would be cruel to wake him up. Wade reports that he is now enveloped in a sweet slumber of happiness, and he wonders what the fate of Wade, captured in this dream, will be. He says there are many dangers in the forest and warns them to be careful. The man says they should set up camp here for the night and rest. The woman thinks they've found a suitable spot for a fire and cooking. The boy says they'll continue on their way tomorrow to reach their destination as soon as possible. The girl says, "Kitty." The man replies, "Hmm." The girl says the cat is so cute, and then picks up the cat, who meows. Wade is a questioning cat. The woman says he has a collar and asks where he came from. The cat says, and the girl reports. The cat runs away from falling ice cubes. Wade yells for Sylvia. The man reacts sharply and says, "That guy." Then the man triggers an explosion. The cat growls. He says that the dwarf mage Gaz moves at exactly the speed he remembers, but if you prepare in advance, you can dodge. The guy says, "Don't move." The girl warns that if he moves, she will attack. Wade says he knows Mabry's and calls him a spiritual summoner. Mabry said he can't use combat magic due to an injury he sustained, as he once inadvertently seriously injured a man. The woman says she knows where it comes from. Wade throws a multitude of flying sheets of paper aside. He says it's a beautiful night and reports that the memory is marked as one of the happiest moments. Wade says he could wallow in the memories for a long time, so they slowly eat away at his soul, but the next one is already waiting for him. The man says he has to spoil everything right away and ask how Wade is doing. He says he's a nasty bastard. Wade says he finally remembered his past memories. He says don't dare trample them with your dirty feet. Wade laughs and says it's his dream world, then asks how it feels to repeat again how the other person senselessly takes away loved ones. He screams that he's a bastard and rushes forward with a spear, but falls to the ground. The man reports that his body is having trouble obeying him. Wade reports that it's nothing good. His mind and his current body are too different in size and strength. Wade curses as he falls to the ground. The man reports that his memories are gradually fading. He says he can't do anything and will simply forget everything completely. Wade talks about. He says that he thought so because the interlocutor will be saved. The wolf screams, "Hurrah!" and delivers a powerful blow, followed by the sounds of crunch, bam, and kaboom. The wolf says it's disgusting. Keen reports that the celebratory wine is spoiled. Wade says that Keen is actually talking about the world in his memories and asks if that's true. Keen apologizes to Wade for the delay. The letter states that they are only shadows of the departed, and only their fragments. Wade says sorry and hand that even after death they can help a comrade, and that's not happiness. The man knocks and reports this. He reports that, judging by his memories, that night, whatever it was, he should not have woken up until dawn. Wade says he feels sorry for his interlocutor, as in this form he is especially sensitive to the scent of the beast. He congratulates you on your promotion, and, in honor of it, passes on a technique. The man with the wolf's head says that Qigong and the Path of Enlightenment are the foundation of his martial art. Wade says he's seen someone else teach Qigong in their memories. The guy replies, He informs the werewolf priest Keen that his gift was in vain, explaining that he had not reached maturity, had failed to comprehend Qi, and had failed. Wade says it's too difficult. He says he understands, but still, the man thinks that by paying too much attention, he's not learning anything and is showing his concentration. He says that the word Qi can be translated as magic. First, you need to catch its flow, and then feel and use the Qi inside yourself, the nature and flow of the stream, which is the basis of his martial art. The man asks if she lacks experience and says she needs to practice hard. The more she practices, the more likely she is to gain confidence. Wade believes that even if she's unsuccessful in her development and training, she'll definitely succeed, and suggests starting with meditation, to which the man agrees. Another man explains. He reports that the interlocutor is showing his height. The man is silent. Dog says he believes in Wade. Wade agrees to the agreement. The wolf says, "Let's overcome the challenges together." He is preparing for battle. The wolf evokes the effect of Qi flow within itself and understands its body properly, then utilizes energy flow, center of gravity, breathing, and twisting. The wolf advises that a dangerous effect is also possible, penetrating defenses and reverberating throughout the body. Wade says that if you perceive these phenomena correctly, you can read movements and parry them, and he also advises noticing the transitions between stillness and movement. He attacks, and the man notes the speed and power of the blow. Wade continues the fight, delivering a series of punches. He says it's strange and wonders if he now thinks the body itself is something that wasn't understood before. The man says that here it is. The woman reports that, having stood in the labyrinth's place, she felt the power of great magic, experiencing each time the destruction and restoration, and was able to understand her essence and learn to precisely control it. Wade says that now all these elements are united in a single mind. The wolf says, "Come on, him," and suggests they end it. The man, panicked, says that can't be right. The wolf attacks Wade. Wade lunges forward at the man in the cloak. Wade delivers a powerful punch, creating a powerful energy. He reports that this was not in the records. Wade says it's morning. He reports that 3 have already survived. The girl asks where the cat is. The man with the beard and monocle asks what happened. The muscle elf seems to be fine. Wade reports that the anomalies are disappearing and the world is returning to normal, and then the thought that his role here is over too. He says that they will always be with him, but if he dies, he will kill him. Wade says it's better not to, and then remains silent. 4 characters wave. A man says, "Thank you." The scene shows the moment of a strong impact or explosion that breaks the glass and creates cracks on the surface. The cat is surprised and says something, and then reports that his mental projection of the weapon and questions whether this is a retaliatory wave damage. The cat reacts to the books falling. Wade tells the cat it was funny. The cat says, "Hey." He says he should say thank you. The guy says that the interlocutor tried hard. The guy says it's okay now. Wade says yes. The cat reports that memory backup magic uses the dungeon's elements as a conduit, making it impossible to spread the spell's location throughout the entire space. This intelligence suggests that if the core is destroyed, all magic in that location will be destroyed as well. The object is being destroyed. The girl says that it will then be broken. The top right panel depicts animals making sounds. Wade says he's human again and rejoices with the others who can't believe they chose life. In the warning panel, a man says there's nowhere to go. A woman thinks there are so many of them here and asks who will lead them all out. Count Seven's light demands silence and announces that he is the one saving them. He has made his decision and has come to the surface with them. The crowd responds in agreement, calling him their hero and confirming that he is saving them. Wade says it worked out, how he learned to inspire others, and it reminded him of their shared descent into the dungeon. A man screams hero. A man screams hero. He says he doesn't think about the consequences at all. The cat announces that they are now definitely Sophia's enemies and that everyone is being killed, including him. Wade says that they were teleported by the Holy Virgin Savior and that he is her subordinate, after which he says that it is clear. He reports that they have contacted Hagia Sophia directly and says that they are about to face a global enemy. Wade says the other person really doesn't understand, and she's terrible. The cat reports that he was able to read in Wade's memories that the dragon Nia is currently single-handedly holding the capital's defense. He asks what. The cat says it's time to start feeling down. The man says that even if she is a top-tier dragon, she cannot defeat the Dungeon Queen. Reptile says he doesn't know how the super-fast recovery works, but it seems to be part of Wade's dungeon as well. Wade says that if that happens, the capital will soon fall, and he's attached to the idea and suggests changing the location. The guy screams in surprise, and the man says it's transfer magic. Wade reveals that this snow cave is one of his essences. The woman says she can now read without looking back. The man says she looks too confident and doesn't seem to have figured it all out yet. The voice announces that now you can destroy everything around you without protection, and there's no need to defend yourself for fear of hurting those you need to protect. The man says that many years have passed, and he can finally speak out with all his might. The woman says it's a terrifying force and agrees. The man says he hasn't seen it in a long time either. The message announces a retransfer, a woman's soul, that this is a sea where continuity sparkles with curls, and even Wade knows it. The guy asked the girl if she said anything. The girl said nothing, not paying attention. Wade explains that this dungeon is due to hypergravity, and no living creature can move here. This idea, one by one, is becoming more and more complicated. The woman asks how to take it apart. The woman reports that she responded politely. The man asked if she felt the full weight of gravity and offered to flatten herself with him. The woman thought this place was a void, and all life there was doomed to die, except for her. The crocodile informed her that there could be no light. Wade reports that the mana and power reserves are incredible and worthy of power, and that a frontal assault is impossible to win, so there's no more here. Then he says things will start differently. The woman confirms that the compressed magical energy causes a colossal explosion and pure chaos. She reports that such power came at a high price, and as a result, the fuel was destroyed. The girl says that she will have to start all over again, and the thought that in a space of emptiness there is no exit, without the possibility of getting out, it disappears along with those who are in it. The man reports that the wall of space and time was destroyed, and security was tracking her along the teleportation route. The girl says this is truly impressive. She thinks the man is truly a mad creature. The guy shouts that it's Lady Sophia and warns everyone to watch, and the crowd reports that Lady Sophia is fighting someone and repeats their confusion about what's going on. Lady Sophia says it's time for the sacrifice. The man with the wound on his face says they've had enough. The girl says she is fighting a dragon, threatening the capital, and asks her friends to entrust their fate to her. explaining that to win, they need faith and unity. The woman says it's impossible, says it's true, and Wade says he's a man and can't think about it. The guy talks about the table's protection and the prayerful Holy Savior. The girl talks about Lady Sophia. The man talks about it with excitement, and the other man says he entrusted it to them. The woman thanks you. The man informs you that the agreement has been finalized. The girl returns the bewilderment, wondering what this crazy delight is all about. The man reports that their life has been crushed by a dragon. Wade shouts that it's a soul devourer and won't let that happen, attacking the enemy. The man says he hasn't had such pleasure in a long time. The woman reports that she's read Delta's command, and if they're still alive, then she was able to pass the time, her job accomplished. The woman bids farewell to the ominous dungeon dragon. The girl performs a manual movement. Then the girl looks forward in surprise. After this, a major explosion occurs in the city. The scene depicts large boulders falling and raising clouds of dust and debris. The image shows an explosion, or a large cloud of dust and smoke, with no visible faces or text. Wade says Naya is alive. The girl looks forward. He says goodbye to the sinister dungeon dragon. The man shouts to Wade. The woman screams and stands up abruptly. The woman tells Wade by name. Wade reports that he is expected to be relieved. The woman says the guy hasn't come home for 10 days, and he says it's been 10 days. He says, thank God. Wade reports that the girl returned from the dungeon in terrible condition, and that it's good the spell worked correctly. This is a signal that moving magic requires precise direction and a precise route, requiring either the activation of a magic circle, a multi-stage coordinate spell, or the assistance of a tool. The woman thinks it's just her head, that if she has to break up with Wade, she wants to be able to instantly return to this dungeon to him at any time from anywhere. The girl says everything is clear. The woman says she thinks the guys can do it. Wade says he'll use his basic movement formula and make it as simple as possible in terms of costs and calculations. The man thinks that if we're considering a person's coordinates, then why not scan the soul? The woman says that the intervention. He explains that this will create a formula that will be implanted in Nia, and the idea that she will spend only a portion of her soul and be able to instantly transform wherever she wishes, without distance restrictions, a spell, or a circle. The man explains that the downside is that the reverse effect will be much more immediate. The woman reports that they only made it so far as the dragon's body could withstand the damage, but the battle proved too difficult, and she was more exhausted than they thought. Wade recounts that, once they had the time, it was a very fun time, and the research proved very productive. The woman apologizes to Wade, explaining that she wanted to be useful to him but lost, and says that the most important thing. Wade says that another one alive is not needed, it is enough that she comes back alive. The woman suddenly hugs Wade, who looks surprised. Wade says he can't let anyone get hurt because of him and asks them not to worry. Then Wade says he'll always be there for them. The woman says that if you don't want to be eaten, it's better not to resist, and the girl remembers that it's not scary and can just relax. The man says it will be fun. Wade says a magical memory stealer has appeared, and all of this was before his income. He says Sophia will almost certainly start hunting them, so they need to prepare for war. He says he saw her power and this madness, as well as the provision that was able to help her. The man reports that he also lost. Wade says they thought they'd do their best. The man stands at the table and leans on it. The guy asks what the man is doing, who tells him it's a study of magic developed by Gauze, Wade's former partner. The woman says the formula isn't yet complete, but it's quite interesting, and they're willing to work on it. Wade says he needs to get back to work. The guy offers to help, and the woman asks Wade to introduce himself. He informs them that the mage he mentioned is further on. He's strange and annoying, but they shouldn't attack him. The man says they're currently hard at work learning more complex magic and won't bother them, which he's good at. The cat says that she carefully read everything Wade wrote and thanks him for a wonderful life. A man makes a sound to express surprise or sudden realization. A man and a cat sitting across from another person communicate to the man the sound that accompanies the appearance or event of something. The cat reveals that his name is Ain and that he was once an adventurer who died in the labyrinth. The man reacts with an exclamation. The cat asked if Wade had guessed correctly, who nodded in response. He says he guessed right again. The woman asks what it is. Wade's brain tells him it's a fortune-telling game that's all the rage among goblins now, guessing what they're having for dinner, and it seems to them when he guesses what they like, which they don't know, even though he's just reading memories. The man shouts next. The cat greets the dragon lady and introduces himself to Lawrence, Sophia's former comrade, and says that she is even more beautiful than in her memories. The woman asks if she can trust him, and Wade says, not really. The cat reveals that after Sophia spoke out against his memory dungeon, he became a target for her purification and therefore defected to their side. The man believes that collaborating with them and being undercover is his chance to survive. The boy says he loves himself more than anyone. The guy yells at Wade. Wade says good morning to Sasha and cares about her. Sasha is responsible. The girl says good morning to the cat and shakes her hand, saying that he doesn't know how to handle cats. The girl asks Lawrence, despite the fact that he is a memory-preserving magician, to which Lawrence responds convincingly. Wade informs her that if she transfers only the implanted memories, the girl can be returned to normal. He says he heard about her condition and that, apparently, the hypnosis was not magical, but very deeply ingrained. The cat reports that it is possible, but risky. The man says that it is like ripping a couple of pages out of piles of books. If you rip them out by force, it is unknown whether she will be able to return to normal. In our case, her mind may collapse. The woman says that she needs to overcome all of this herself. The girl tells Wade that this cat can tell fortunes and offers to tell him his destiny. Wade asks why. The woman slams her foot on the ground, casting a dragon kick and giving him a kasha. The woman says Wade is destined to be with her and asks why this is happening, and he asks what she's doing. The man and the cat say it's hard being a popular man, and the man confirms this. Wade says no one will escape his mother's clutches. The man thinks everyone here will die. He delivers a powerful punch. The man reports that Mr. Wade has not given him permission to speak. Wade says, Vij, stay calm. He asks what he wants to tell his interlocutor, and he says that he is simply telling the truth and that they cannot be defeated in their current state. Wade says he will help them too. He says he can't bear to think this has happened and that they now need to act quickly. The man says the situation is critical and a decision needs to be made immediately. The woman thinks they only have one chance to fix everything and they must learn for that. Wade says it's him. Black Cat says he agrees with that. He says that an attack on the mother is inevitable and it is better to learn to resist. Wade says he is the killer of his friends and he can't accept it. He says that if the enemy is a common one, then he should speak up and warns that if we cling to personal hatred, our current comrades will die in vain. A man with a strong expression listens to him. Wade is silent. He says it's impossible to be so insensitive. The woman said and admitted that he was right now. Wade informs her that the main threat is Sophia, and now is not the time for hard feelings. The girl tells Wade. The cat reports that he has become calmer than in his memories of the past, and he says that it is good and offers to hint. Wade says that after defeating Sophia, he will kill the interlocutor, but will not give up the place. He says that no matter how he has to act, he will destroy the soul of the interlocutor so that he will never be on Sunday, and he invited whether this interlocutor suits. Wade says that once he kills his mother, his mission will be complete, after which he will accept any punishment. He also says that this arrangement suits him. The man remains silent. The woman tells Sasha to call Dolta and remove the shackles from him. Sasha reports that she understood. The woman asks if this is normal. Wade says yes. He says his determination is sincere and he doesn't think he's betraying. The man says he will betray. Wade thanks the man for his trust, asks him to shut up, and Wade says that he has not forgiven him. The message tells the name he. Wade tells the dragon's daughter to leave this tactless one to him and that he will lecture him on manners. He says his name. A woman asks if Wade is okay, and he thanks her for her respect and then takes offense. Nia says meeting Wade was strange, but he genuinely cares about her. The woman says that not only Nia, but everyone here in the dungeon trusts her and goes with her. Wade says he has already made his decision, and now he doesn't care about any principles or nobility. He says the main thing is not to lose anyone else. The man stands with his back too. Wade says we'll all survive. The woman says she will exterminate them. Wade reports that an evil dragon has wreaked havoc on the capital, claiming many lives, and that he is now in deep grief, just like everyone else. The girl says they must move forward and try to turn grief into determination. The character on the tower tells the message that the question is whether they will go into battle with him. The man and Wade shout simultaneously. Wade announces that the royal army is invading the dragon's dungeon from this moment on. The girl speaks forward and announces the beginning of the Grand March. He says, "Let's start." Wade reports that Sophia has raised the pretext of rebellion under the slogan that she is going to destroy the dragon that is igniting in the royal capital. The cat asks how they found out. He reports that there's about a month left until the full-scale event. The woman says that these are Eliza and Popel, who have been scouted, and says that they are professionals at this. Eliza says that they are great. Wade reports that Sophia is gathering forces in all the kingdoms, and given the timing of the mobilization, there is time to move a large army this month. He says that 20,000 warriors are quite a powerful army and that the dungeon consists almost entirely of tangled, narrow caves where such an army cannot deploy. Wade says he doesn't understand why she would make such sacrifices, even though she can replenish her strength. The man reveals that she is a soul eater. He says she's using civilians as sacrifices for powerful magic. This idea that blood, flesh, and soul ancient magic demands life as payment, and the more victims, the better. He explains that his mother probably wants to build her own dungeon. The boy remarks that Wade thought that when a creature dies in the dungeon, its magic returns to it, and for the mother, this place sooner or later becomes her property, so no matter how many soldiers die, for her, it is not a loss. The woman says she's confident she'll get the dungeon, and the cat says Sophia's power is truly immense. The man thinks it's all about her mood, and if she gets something into her head, she'll immediately lead your army. The woman says the tactics do not matter to her, and she can do whatever she wants. Wade reports that no one has been here in a long time. The man recalls that knowledge and memories are stored here, untouched for many years. Wade explains that this place seems frozen in time, holding secrets of the past. He tells Nia that he wants to know what she thinks. Nia reacts with surprise. The man says that Wade fought Sophia one-on-one and suggests that they think about it, and Wade asks if they have even the slightest chance. He says that her strength was indeed mythical, but she was definitely human and could be broken. Wade says the chance is not zero and asks if that's true. The girl confirms that it is, albeit a very small one. He says that then that is enough, and in any case they will have no choice but to act. He is not going to meekly feed them food. Wade says everyone will survive and win. He says hooray and hugs the other person. The woman says she loves Wade's tenacity and has fallen in love with his eyes, which shine even in despair. Wade declares that this is their Wade. The man says he's annoyed by the current events. The girl says he wants a lift too. Wade stops talking. The man says it's dangerous. The woman says that when she first met Wade, she thought he was simply afraid of pain and dying quickly. She then explains that now he wants to save not only himself but everyone he loves, adding that he didn't expect this. Wade says he wants to do the same and asks to participate. The man warns that this is too much and asks him to stop. The girl says that he is such a hard worker. He says that this guy. Wade says that although he's not the strongest, he's become the center of their group, and that's fortunate. The girl thinks he's not particularly smart, but he tries to protect his comrades and wants to help him with that. The man asks what. The man remains silent, peeking out from behind the door. He says that it has been like this from the very beginning. Two goblins fight each other, striking with an axe and fists. The top right man says he can't help because he doesn't know how to use an axe, and the bottom right man says he can help with chopping. Wade looks at them in surprise. In the center, the man in the cloak says to be careful and take things slowly. On the left is the man with the pumpkin. The girl reports that the spell is finally ready and applies to Wade. She knows the details will be revealed later and advises him to kill the guy. He says he'll use it carefully and thanks her. The cat explains that without his help, none of this would have happened, and this concerns the knowledge of the morning in our time. Wade asks if these are the memories stolen from their captive, to which the cat replies that they are Sophia's. He informs her that his price for cooperation is the renunciation of her memories, and that even the loss of 100 years of life has not changed anything for her. He calls it humiliation. Wade says he will now wash away his shame. He says he's so honest it's pointless and calls him a weirdo. Wade says that many useful materials can be found in this area and reports that rare minerals can be found here. The man in the hat believes that to achieve success in development, it's necessary to take into account the region's peculiarities and conserve energy wisely. Two men are hiding in a cave. The man with the mustache is silent. In the distance, a silhouette runs along a forest path. A month has passed. A man stands on top of a hill. Wade announces that they are here. The man addresses Sophia. The woman says she is waiting for orders. The woman says that all troops must go on the attack. The image contains no text or speech. It shows several knights standing in formation, wearing helmets and carrying shields. Wade informs them that there are many enemies in the cave ahead and warns them that if they are not careful, they will die. Then Wade is surprised. He reports that there are enemies ahead. The top right man fights several creatures, growling. Below, Wade watches the scene unfold. Below, the right man throws a punch, causing an explosion. At the very bottom, a pumpkin-headed creature grabs a falling man. The woman says she'll send everything here. The man thinks the enemy has begun to retreat. He asks how the situation is. The girl asks if he's following her. Wade says no, and they leave too. He tells us to hold the defense and rest in line, and also to wait at the starting positions. The man announces that the queen of the dungeon stands before them, and she won't give up so easily. 2 knights say the monsters were stronger than they expected. The man reveals that he's alive, and Wade shouts for Mistress Sophia. He says that the usual Sophia would not have fought such a careless battle. Today, something is wrong, as if she is not herself. The guy asks what the ladies' hall is like. The man tells General Try that the forces in the dungeon do not give them an advantage and suggests a temporary retreat. Wade says it's red dragon blood extracted from the abandoned tail. The man says no and asks what it is. He says that with her help, he gives them. A man gives a blessing. Wade says, man, and reports that Wade is screaming, The man thinks that if you bother him, even the weak and vulnerable, the girl screams, Sophia, lady, troops. The man reports that they are going to be the greatest pawns. The woman says it's a magnificent sight. It's a shame the horses were hurt, but never mind. The man panics, tries to say something, and then starts screaming. The woman works with the man. The girl says she'll repeat it again. The man moves forward, making sliding sounds. The man screams no and makes a sound. The woman says that all troops must go on the attack. The scene depicts a carriage surrounded and pursued by large, dark silhouettes with glowing eyes. The image shows the entrance to a cave or dungeon with a sign stating that the adventurer living in the labyrinth wants to succeed as a dungeon master. The woman says the royal army has retreated and now it's time to rest. The woman says, phew. A girl says she hears a noise and asks what it is while 3 running men turn to a dark hole in the wall. Wade says, Gwa. 3 goblins run away from huge shadows with glowing eyes and mouths. The woman says to wipe them off and melt them. The woman says how much it will take. The woman says she'll be happy to give them all away. The woman asks you to wait a little, General, and says she'll go when the time is right. The man makes a sound. The guy yells, Kaya. The man says that no matter how much he chops them, they don't go away and ask what the hell is going on. The man yells that they're surrounded. Wade delivers a powerful blow. The girl and the monsters shout for Master Wade. The girl asks if Sunny is okay and says she's holding up for now, but soon, outnumbered, the monsters come pouring in from everywhere. The woman reports that reinforcements have arrived just in time. He says they need to gather in the main hall and reorganize the defenses, otherwise their bowls will be destroyed, and he will relay this to this contact. Then a huge glowing head appears from which a flash erupts. The girl asks Wade in. Wade thanks Nia. Nia says that's exactly it, and the thought that she's an ally is why she flew right away. Wade agrees. He says that we need to hurry and see a doctor. The girl replies that it is accepted. Wade asks if everyone is okay. The woman replies that they are more or less. The girl says that the black creatures are constantly rising and are already annoying. He reports that he extracted from the memory of the shadow dragon with whom they are training. The guy says this is no longer conscious awareness, but the sad consequences of life, and asks what it is. The idea is that these creatures are a mixture of American Army soldiers who are reborn again and again because they have multiple lives. The cat says he's in a bad mood. Wade says it's disgusting. The girl says, brr. The woman reports that the path to the warehouses and labyrinths is hidden, and fortunately, the creatures in question are mindless, so they cannot attack them. She senses that these creatures are aggressive and seek to attack all living things, most likely following life signals, and the woman reports that the scientists are quick thinkers. Wade says they'll be here then because they simply have no other choice. He reports that Nia is many times more powerful than them, but there are too many enemies, so additional losses must be taken into account before the main commander enters the battle. The woman tells Wade they're coming, and Wade says never to second guess. Then a dark creature with many glowing eyes appears. He and a girl with a sword fight, a man with an axe, the girl delivering a fiery blow. The woman notices that their forces seem evenly matched and suggests adjusting the situation a bit. First, there's a roar, then Whirlwind appears with the silhouette of a dragon. After that, there's a powerful explosion. Wade says it's on his opponent and then asks what the hell that is. A woman warns from behind. A man says he's not casting a spell. The guy says it's bad. The girl yells for the master. The girl calls for Wade. The top panel, from right to right, depicts an explosion with a bright flash scattering fragments. The left panel shows a shockwave or electrical discharge. The bottom panel, from right to left, shows flying debris and particles rotating, causing loud sound effects. Wade says he can't see what's happening and exclaims that he doesn't understand how this is possible, and then begins to speak, addressing someone. He reports that he hasn't seen the Dungeon Master and the beautiful dragoness for a long time, and then enlists him as a dragon slayer. Wade says that those who defeated him will surely tremble before a pathetic fake dragon. The woman says it's him. He asks what she's doing here and if it's really on Sophia's orders. The man yells, "Wait," several times. The man says it's his ally he called, and Wade says, "Count." The woman says she hasn't seen Wade in a while and thought he ran away. He says the woman and her companions are the only ones who have been kind to him. The man next to Wade says, "Gee." The woman adds, "To hell with them." Wade says he's actually glad the man came and thanks him. The man replies that he's saying goodbye. He says that he kills everyone himself and will not forgive anyone who takes money from him from the outside. The man asks if he can be trusted at all. The girl says she can handle everything without Wade's help. Wade comments that the girl looked helpless just now. The girl screams that Wade just yelped. Wade says the girl lost to him and shouldn't act arrogant. Wade thinks about Sophia's magic and caring. He says that now is not the time for a fight, the girl warns with her left hand to pay attention to what is happening behind her. Wade says don't interfere, and the other man yells at us. He and the man stand next to each other and watch what is happening. The guy says not to take his plot, and Wade says that she is his. He says that this is making his life sick, and the girl thinks that it works so well. Wade reports that the dragon's shadow has disappeared. The woman says she doesn't know when the second wave will start, but suggests they rest for now. He says they need to give a special nourishing potion and offer a drop of it to everyone together. The man wonders if it's safe. Wade says it's free, and in exchange he'll only inspect the body. The man asks if Wade wants some and then threatens to chop him up for the price. The girl tells Wade that she too has fought against a lot of enemies and says that it is very tiring to take care of children. Wade asks if the girl is hurt. She replies that everything is fine and says that even though she has the memory of a child, she wields a sword like. The girl says that when we all walk together, it becomes so noisy. Wade says it's a good crowd. The woman says that it was done carefully here. He confirmed this. Wade says the main thing is that everyone gets to the end. He says that would be wonderful. Wade screams and falls off the cart, which is moving at high speed. Wade looks ahead with a tense expression on his face. The girl watches the scene with a serious expression. Several people, including a girl with ears, a man with horns, a woman in a hat, and a man with... The woman says her name is Sophia, and he says she's nearby. Wade says this is his first encounter with the Dungeon Master Dragon. The man reports that thanks to him, he was finally able to have some fun. The woman says that now that she has satisfied her curiosity, it is time to clean up, because after playing, you always have to clean up after yourself, and adds that it would be nice if no one got hurt. Chapter 22 begins. Wade announces that this time it will tell the story of how he met the girl who changed his life. He explains that he can't afford to be weak because he has a family he must protect. The man believes that if he fails, everything he values will be lost. The girl says it's nice to meet the owner of the Dragon Dungeon. She reports seeing several familiar faces here. The cat says that those who are here shouldn't be here. The girl listens in surprise. The blindfolded man looks seriously. Wade says that not everything in the world happens the way you want it to, and asks if this irritates his interlocutors. The woman says it's a cheap provocation. The woman says she will play along with them. Wade says that if they just wash everything, it will all be over. The man reacts with surprise to what's happening. He says, Dolta used that spell, after which Dolta learns its use, causing a state explosion. The woman reports that they were scattered, but this proves that they are definitely inside their dungeon. She thought the barrier spell worked. The man reveals that this is one of the magic spells left by Gozu, a restrictive barrier that prevents the shower from entering or exiting. It is said that the dungeon's source originally required only enough magic to hold 1 or 2 souls, but by using it as a medium, it was possible to compensate for the magic consumption and range, all thanks to the speaker's abilities. Tell the woman that now Sophia will not be able to escape and will no longer transfer them to her dimension. The woman reports that in return, they themselves do not have the opportunity to leave. Wade explains that these aren't just cats, but demons that devour souls. Wade believes that if they're not stopped, they'll destroy everything around them. Wade explains that they need to act quickly and carefully to save the city. He says this is the same transfer they heard about. Wade asks if the man is sure he did the right thing by giving him the notebook, since it's all his years of work, to which the man replies that everything is fine. The thought that the research was aimed at capturing and preserving the souls of his deceased wives and children, but it's too late for that now. He tells Gaz that he is already an old man. Gaz thinks that the main thing is that one day this will happen. Wade informs Gaz that his Dolta spell has been successfully implemented into reality. He says that now he is the only one left. Wade advises that we must fight the authorities by fighting the ancient creatures. The woman reports that they used an interesting spell. The letter informed him that the travel coordinates had shifted, the connection with the world message had been cut off, and he was trapped. He then thought that the situation was unfortunate, but so be it, he would simply make this dungeon his own. Wade says he can't think about it. The woman tells Sasha that he is shaking and afraid, and Sasha says that this is true. The woman reports that the collar blocks her memory and regrets spending so much time raising this pawn. The man makes an AAA sound. The girl says that we can start over, but the woman says she won't and that she doesn't need the guy anymore. The woman says it's Wade. Wade screams and falls, blood spurting from the wounds on his arm. The woman says, ouch. The man says it's a useless nuisance. Wade says he's fed up. Then he falls to the ground. The girl screams, and Wade says he's okay and tries to tell her he's okay. He says it can be done faster. The girl says, ka. The woman says it's scary. I repeat this several times. The girl says she wants to tell him too because she's a knight, but she's so scared her body won't move. She says she wants to help Wade because if this continues, he could die. The girl asks why this happens by accident. Then she notices something and says, huh? Wade says Mabrice. The image contains no text or spoken characters, but shows the moment of impact or activation with a spark effect and moving lines. A woman asks a girl if she is okay. The boy screams, asking who she is and where he is, as well as where Wade is and where the woman went. Mabrice reveals that she was Wade's companion on his previous journey and is merely a fragment of a memory included in the Ring of Healing. She said she was watching Wade because of this. The woman says it's too complicated for a girl. The girl echoes her bewilderment. The elf says the girl now is very similar to her in the past, which is why she was able to respond. The girl, surprised, asks if she looks like her and says, ugh. You tell a man that his heart is bound with terror, and he says that a man wants to help an important companion, but fear binds him and he cannot do anything. The girl says she wants to help Wade and confirming that this is exactly what she needs. The woman asks her name and is told it's Sasha. Wade says, listen carefully. The woman says that she will use all the power that remains in her in this ring to break the spell that has bound the man's heart. Wade says that even if he removes the shackles in time, the fear in the heart will not disappear completely, but will turn back. The woman tells him that if he still wants to meet her face to face, she'll help push him forward. He says he'll try, as he also wants to help and protect everyone. The man can say something, but he can't finish the sentence. The woman smiles. The elf informs that this battle is graceful for Wade and a graceful enemy, and asks to help him. The woman said she was glad Wade had so many friends. She said it was okay to scold him from time to time because he was such a workaholic. The woman says she's been bothering Wade by calling him Mabrice. Wade asks for Sasha. The man reacts to the situation with tears. The man says Ms. Sophia is terrible. Sophia says she no longer has a shred of doubt. The woman says she doesn't like hearing this from Wade. The woman says it's unbearable. Wade says that the insignificant creatures dared to bring him to this state. He says this shouldn't have happened. The woman reports that they had to wait and that it took time for the body to recover. The man wonders if Sasha's memory has returned. The woman calls Wade and says the details will be revealed later. The woman says not to get cocky. The woman says it's a flame. The woman says that this is also a concern. The woman says that she will not allow one little girl to look too cool. The man shouts. The woman says she can't believe he dealt with the shadow so quickly and asks what the elusive creature is. She also reports that the dragon is already here. Wade reports that it's not just Nia, but everyone else is here too. The man asks if Wade is okay. Wade says they were detained by the dragon shadows, but he took charge. He delivers a powerful blow with his sword. The man says that the one behind him deserves attention too. The man shouts that they need to act and encourages Brad. Wade says he's fed up. The woman says that there's praise to be had and says it's time for the final showdown. There's no battlefield here. The man says it's time for the final upload. Wade says the Holy Virgin's face shows that the nasty bugs have rebelled and are causing trouble. The Holy Virgin is silent. He says that if he gets tired of them, he can just remove them all again, but he doesn't. The man says that he can no longer do this with that technology. The woman is convinced that the art of the gods requires a colossal amount of mana, the instant creation of portals, the destruction of her barriers, recognition, and sweeping away everything. Wade, that before it was possible to use it again and again because it was preoccupied with countless dungeons, sources of mana, but this connection is broken, and her mana is now limited. He says that no matter how divine the power, the vessel remains human. Then he hopes the girl hasn't forgotten how many times she's already broken it. The woman says she's fed up with them, and that they're like annoying gnats, doing whatever they want. Then an explosive or powerful attack occurs, after which several characters begin to act, using magical or combat abilities. The woman says she's starting to fade away because of the insignificant lives and is worried about what's happening. She says she might end things. Wade says if she has to act, it's now. He says that he will definitely cope. and activates all the magic left by Gauze, the technique that completed Dolt and the others. Wade reports the power and mana flow. The woman yells at the insolent people. The man reports that the last magic left by Gauze is gathering many people within the barrier. He thinks he consumes that amount of killing mana as a normal person, but thanks to the regenerative power of the owner of this place, he can withstand such power. He explains that he and Rem have refined it. Wade says the spell, Dungeon Hero Saga. The man makes a sound of surprise. The girl watches. He reports a blow. The man says he's amazed by the speed and power. He asks if there's a rebellion yet. Wade says great and says he will kill as many as it takes. In his notes, Goza stated that the goal was to preserve the souls of his deceased wife and child by feeding them mana. He reports that in the latest versions of the blueprints, the spell was changed, now targeting living people rather than the dead. This suggests that control magic was added to the spell. The man says he must tell them how it will all end, and offers to take their mana as well. The man says it's willpower. The woman says it's the strength to endure, and Wade says they need to end this quickly. The image shows a moment of intense combat, where the character delivers a series of powerful blows, accompanied by explosions and collision effects. The woman says there's a shortage of the appropriate showerhead and laughs. The woman says it's humiliating and laughs. Wade yells that he's delivering the finishing blow, Nia. The man calls out to Wade. The woman screams. He and the woman fight off a powerful attack. A woman screams in pain. A man screams in pain. A man and woman watch the scene unfold. Wade announces the fight is over. A man and woman announce their boyfriend is finished. The woman says it's all true. This is the end, where victory is hers. The text announces that the next chapter is the finale, and Sophia aims at the dungeon's heir. Wade says the outcome of the fight is a foregone conclusion and laughs. The woman announces that victory is hers. Wade says that when the core touches, the man says that this dungeon will be his and that he will remove the too strong barrier after he deals with them. The guy says that none of them hope to get out of here alive. The woman says it's Mom. The woman is amazed and makes a sound of surprise. The woman asks who it is and where it came from. The woman thinks that if she had even a little ordinary mana, such shackles wouldn't hold her, and she explains that this shadow is darkness of the same nature. Wade says the interlocutor knows the dungeon better than anyone else, thrives alongside them and depends on them, and if contact with the outside world is lost, he will definitely try to touch the core and take over everything. He says he's been hiding in the shadows all this time, waiting for the right moment. He says that the girl should understand everything, looks into his eyes. The girl says that Wade claims to be a child born from the interlocutor. He explains that this life is the interlocutor's creation and now exists only to destroy him. The woman says she remembers and tells that there was only one time when she created something like a child, as a vessel for a new generation. The woman says the book describes the world as filled with many different creatures and explains that some can be dangerous while others are friendly. The boy says he wants to learn more about the friendly creatures. Wade says he rebelled against her and she was forced to kill him. The man holds a knife and looks forward. He informs him that his interlocutor has inherited the art of reincarnation. The man says he will bind Wade with his soul, and he will die along with him and this dungeon. Wade says his name. He thanks them for their generosity and says that without their help he couldn't have neutralized his mother. The man remains silent. Wade says he demands forgiveness for allowing the other person to produce their own space. He says that unfortunately it's not very clear that he can just finish her off in a rage, so he will take on the role of the one who delivers the finishing blow, because this is his dungeon. Wade asks if this is the end for him to die in a place like this. Then he delivers a powerful blow. He reports that the dungeon is collapsing. The woman announces that she has opened the way and begun the evacuation. The man and the winged creature look at her. Wade says he's leaving. The man addresses Wade by name. He tells her that if he can't get through this, he'll die. The idea is that this is a test he must pass to become stronger. The caption states that 6 months have passed. Wade says that the enemy, Copies, is dead and has been freed from the Master of the Labyrinth video. He says that in this way he can finally sum it up. Sylvia reports that she's mastered her flame tail technique. Wade tells Qian that he's since started practicing Qigong again. The man tells Gauze that his magic was indeed superior. The woman tells Mabries that she's rumored to have saved Sasha. He says that life there seemed endless, but in reality it flew by too quickly, and it feels like he met everyone again in that dungeon. He reports that he can finally truly remember them and say a proper goodbye. He thanks everyone, explaining how he managed to survive as an ordinary person. Wade says they now need to decide what to do next. He looks up. Then the dragon suddenly lands on the ground. The dragon says they were waiting for Wade. Wade asks why they're lying around and says it's all his fault. He asks if he has already made graves. The man replies that yes. The woman says they're on their honeymoon and is ready to fly anywhere, asking where they're going next. Wade says that's what she intended and says everything's fine. It then shows that 6 months have passed since those events. The goblins were part of the lair and had moved into a cave deep within the mountain. The Count was so reluctant to part with the goblins that he insisted on installing a portal connecting his estate to the cave. Sunny continues to be a free-spirited adventurer, darting here and there right before your eyes as she stirs the chaos around her. Rumor has it that business has improved even more thanks to the materials obtained in the labyrinth, and Dolta has returned to his magic shop in the capital. Wade reports that he's returned with Rem and the others, who have the rights to take over her labyrinth, and it seems they frequently discuss ideas with Dolta, which they've come to agree on through research. The man explains that Sasha has decided to focus on his body and spirit, and now constantly has his chances, and also heard. He says he doesn't know what he wants. He says everyone lives their own way, full of energy. The monster says that after their honeymoon, they will have a sweet married life and asks what Wade doubts, who replies that he calls it sweet. The dragon says it would be nice to wander around for a while and confirm this. He says that at the end of the journey, he can visit everyone again and see how they are. The dragon makes a sound and says, Wade tells Nia that it feels like magic, and Nia asks what it is. Someone is calling Wade loudly. Wade says what's going on. The girl says hi to Wade and says they haven't seen him in a while. Wade says this crowd is suspicious and asks if something's wrong. The woman thinks it's a military force to stop the war in the underground. The man asks, what? The woman reports that conflicts around the world have escalated since Sophia's death. He shouts that he doesn't understand. The girl in the hat says that Sophia left behind an inheritance, dungeons, the loss of the last owners. Everything has gotten out of control, chaos continues, and the situation is becoming unmanageable. The girl says it's time to talk and speak again. The other girl says it can't go on like this. The woman says it's all clear, but she's not worried about it anymore. Wade says this. The girl invites Wade to become the master again. He starts talking but doesn't notice the end. Wade reports that this is a good maze. He reports that this carriage is Sophia's converted carriage, and fortunately, it functions as a miniature space, while inside it counts as being inside the dungeon. The man expressed the opinion that this is how she circumvented the movement restrictions. The guy says that now it's clear how she was able to. The woman reports that this is the gas from her former dungeon and that she is now temporarily acting as its owner. The woman says that they want Wade to be their leader and asks him to use this poison. The woman states that formally they respect the other person's decision and do not intend to force them. The woman says that the complicated things are on Wade. The girl says that you say that you, the male representative, do not allow Wade to get off the track. The woman says that the chairman is perfect and wants to discuss it with Mr. Wade. Wade says that since everyone's here, he doesn't understand why they've been silent until now. The man says that's called a surprise. The man thinks they think that if the stage is set, Wade will be the tougher champion since he's a softie. The woman addresses Wade by name and cares about what he decides. Wade says it's impossible. The girl says it's not. The man regrets that they have to try. He says that caring for incubators is difficult. Wade reports that their brief lull is over. He reports that he is throwing himself again into the abyss of war. Wade announces that he and his comrades will save the world again. He thinks he wants to quit being a dungeon master again.